Yes, Sandeep, we'll start.
Yes. Good morning and a very happy new year to Dr. Bala Ramadurai sir, Dr. Meghna Bilare, Director DYPIMR, Dr. Vishal Vadaskar, Associate Director DYPIMR, HOD MBA and MCA DYPIMR, and all other participants present over here. I, Professor Sandeep Sarkale, would like to welcome you back for the third day of AICTE ATAL FDP on design thinking to nurture creativity and innovation leading to entrepreneurship advanced level, organized by Dr. D.Y. Patil, Institute of Management and Research, Pimpri, Pune. The famous inventor, engineer, businessman, and a holder of no fewer than 186 patents, Charles Kettering once said, "If you have always done it that way, it is probably wrong." If you are a designer, an entrepreneur, or any kind of employee, you are no stranger to constant pressure to innovate. We also know that innovation doesn't always come that easily. We live in an era of experiences, be they services or products. And we have come to have high expectation for these experiences. That's where design thinking comes in. It's a concept that's becoming increasingly hard to ignore. And yet, despite such high-profile success stories, it's a concept that continues to be shrouded in a mystery. We are privileged and honored today to have with us our resource person for today's session, Dr. Bala Ramadurai sir. Dr. Bala Ramadurai is an author, coach, consultant, and professor. He has a PhD from Arizona State University, USA, and BTech from IIT Madras, India. He was a technology forecasting researcher and designer in the Format project at Politecnico di Milano, Milan, Italy. He has authored a book on design thinking called Karmic Design Thinking. He has 3 patents to his credit and 10 plus publications in international research journals. He co-founded Trees Innovation India. He is an adjunct professor at Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, India. He currently mentors an EdTech enterprise called Nine Electronics. He is a professor at National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning, that is NPTEL. Dr. Bala was a systematic innovation facilitator at Mindtree Limited. Prior to Mindtree, he was a research scientist at General Electric Global Research India. He has mentored students in an entrepreneurship course facilitated by Carnegie Mellon University, USA, and has been cited as an expert in innovation and creativity by Harvard Business Review. Now, I would like to request our director, Dr. Meghna Bilare, DYPIMR, to virtually felicitate Dr. Bala sir. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I request Dr. Bala sir to enlighten us on today's topic, that is building design thinking framework. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share some of my experiences amongst our colleagues. Thank you so much. And that was very clever, the virtual felicitation. That was very nice. Thank you. I received the virtual bouquet. Everything is becoming virtual. So my journey with design thinking started about 10 or 11 years ago when we were I had a bunch of IT professionals all around me, and we were wondering how to engage them for an entire day. I was given an entire day to engage them. And then we said we had to give them very different sort of cases so that we can keep them engaged, because these guys used to get bored very easily. With lectures, you give them a full day of lectures, they're not going to listen. So how do we keep them engaged? So one of the cases I remember was we said, can you redesign a car dashboard? That's boring. That's very natural. So, but we said this is Rajinikanth's car that you're designing. Okay, so they got totally involved. We didn't have to tell them anything. We just let them, and it was fascinating to watch them work on this. So I strongly believe that design thinking and thinking about design, thinking about somebody else is very action oriented. It's has to be followed with action. Of course, there's theory. We're all teachers. We do teach theory. It's important, but it's extremely action oriented. So, as I would quote Lord Buddha on this, he said, compassion is empathy with action. Okay, so if you just have empathy, if you feel for somebody, it is one part of the story. The second part is taking positive, concrete action towards making somebody else's life better. Okay, so you'll see a lot of Lord Buddha's references with that. I will start my talk. Please do let me know when you can see my screen. Sir, Sandeep sir.
Sir, we can take a break in between.
Yeah.
As you said.
Yeah, yes. Definitely. Thank you. So you can see my screen, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We can.
All right. So today we are going to discuss, we have our sessions, the 3 sessions that we have is going to be split into 3. I'll definitely give you a break in between as requested by Sandeep sir. And I do empathize with you sitting in front of a screen for such a long time. We will definitely take a break for sure. So we're going to discuss and work on, like I said, it's going to have some action. So this is part lecture, but also going to be with some action. So be ready with a notebook and a pen. I'm quite old-fashioned. I like my analog stuff. So please be ready with a pen and a paper. I will tell you to the second from the second session on, it's going to be very hands-on. Okay, and also I'd request you to be as interactive as you can through the chat. If you're watching this, of course, as a recorded session, please also have a pen and paper, because in the latter half you will definitely be working on some assignments that I will give you. Okay, so this session is going to be about design thinking, of course, and my methodology is a little bit different from what you might come across on the internet or on other courses or other books that you've come across. But the common feature that you will see in all these methodologies is that, let me increase the microphone a little bit more. Okay, it's probably so. In all these methodologies, you will see that the common part is going to be the human centricity. Okay, so the humans are going to be right in the center of our thinking of what we are looking at. So everything, any design thinking methodology you come across, you're going to have human-centered as part of as a core theme to this. Okay, and why do we need design thinking? As Sir rightly put it in the introduction, it is to help create new products and services, but also enhance new products and services. We are predominantly teachers in this community. Our service is the teaching service that we offer. Our products are the courses that we put together, the courses that we teach to our students. Even if you're teaching or a trainer in corporates, it's the course or the workshops that you put together is the product that we put across. And services is the teaching, is the coaching that we provide to our students or our learners. That is the service that we offer. So if this methodology is primarily aimed at helping create new products and services or enhance existing products and services. And the key feature is it's human-centered. Now, you'll see that Buddhism inspiration is there. We will come to that part a bit later, and so is the word karmic. We'll also come to that part later. Okay, so just hang on. But any methodology you come across which has a design thinking tag to it, this is what you will find common: helping create products and services, which is human-centered. So that's what is common. Okay. With that, course is not only about me and the methodology, but also about you. You are the center of attraction for this course. So we would need a short introduction of yourself. And since we are online, we will do it in an online fashion. In this, you will have to tell us where you're logging in from, what's your name, and what do you teach if you're a teacher, or if you're from an organization, what is your role in the organization. Just use it in this particular website that I'm going to share in the chat. Okay, so here's where we will post it. So it should be accessible to anybody, unless you are behind a firewall. This is accessible to everybody. Okay. So what do we need to do in that? So go here, you will see something like this. Click on the plus sign like that and type in where you're logging in from. I'm logging in from Pune, Maharashtra. Okay, and you'll see a pop-up like this. You can type your name. Okay, my name is Fowler. My role in the organization, I'm an author, professor, and consultant in design thinking, for example. Okay, and that's it. Just click on publish, and you will see. I'll be able to see where you are in this map. Okay, just for fun, let's see how many people there are and where are you all logging in from, just for fun. Okay, let's see. Please do let us know in the chat if you're not able to access this. Maybe I can fix it from my side. Yeah, I think you can access it because I can see. Okay, so what we need to do, thanks for the question. What we need to do is the link is given, click on the link, and you need to type in 3 things. Wait a second. Yeah, 3 things. Where are you logging in from? Okay, what's your name and what do you teach? Or if you're a teacher, if you're from an organization, let us know what is your current role in the organization, like how I have done it. Right, click on the plus sign in the map and do that. Okay, there's somebody who's entered it. Let's see. Somebody is logged in from Jalgaon. Okay, all right. Anybody else? So you need to do these 3 things. Okay, somebody else also from Pune. Okay, all right. So this keeps expanding. Ooh, our northernmost person here from Chandigarh, who is an assistant professor in PGGC 46. Okay, somebody from Delhi, somebody from Nashik. Okay, that's cool. 2 of us are from Pune, 2 of us are from Nashik. From Vijayawada, somebody is an associate professor and communication skills department in KL University. Okay. Miss Pratiksha is logging in from Dharwad, 7 years experience in teaching, management, commerce, students, and now pursuing a PhD in Karnataka University, Dharwad. Okay. Okay, let's see if anybody else is logged in. So right now, the professor from Chandigarh is the northernmost for us. There are 3 people from Pune, or I guess economics professor interested in research. Okay, just give us 2 or 3 more minutes. We'll be done with this. From this Ms. Pratiksha from Dharwad. Okay. So somebody from Gujarat, Ahmedabad Institute of Technology, and Neeraj Plaha. Okay, welcome to this session. Everybody else? Just want to get to flavor of where are all people logging in from. Okay. Okay. Oh, there are a couple of people from Chandigarh, I guess. Okay. Sabreet Kaur Man is an assistant professor, Department of Management, postgraduate from Government College. Welcome to the session. Thank you. You're tied in with the northernmost. For us, Miss Pratiksha is the southernmost. Easternmost, we have somebody, Neeraj from Ahmedabad. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. It's great to meet all of you. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's see. Now, I'm going to introduce you to two scenarios. This will highlight to us what is the philosophy of design thinking. Okay, one will be very different from the other scenario. I have contrasted it for effect, but in real life, it may not be this contrasted. Okay, so but I'm going to present these two scenarios. Let's start with the first scenario, which will highlight to us. Okay, so this is a professor who's very dedicated to the college. So this scenario, this professor, let's call him Bowman. Professor Bowman is very dedicated to his college. He is extremely particular that the syllabus be covered very well. So any change that he wants to bring about in his syllabus, what does he do? He looks at the syllabus from the board, from what's happening as a development in the industry, in his own department, and all that, and then considers that and puts that into his syllabus, right? If he wants a change, what does he do? He looks at the his own department and what are the developments in that and adds those modules to his syllabus. This is what Bowman does, Professor Bowman does. Okay. The second scenario I'm going to show you is another teacher, another professor, the person at the back. Let's call him some name, Amir. Okay, let's call Amir. Amir is a professor also in the same college as Professor Bowman, and his methodology is very different. He doesn't look at anything inside the college. He looks at outside the college. He looks at what do the students want. What do the students placement potential employers want. So he questions them and gets the changes that he wants in the syllabus and then puts it into the syllabus. Of course, he will talk to the management and say that this is what I found out outside the college. What do you say? Should we include this in the syllabus or not? So Professor Bowman looks at inside the college, inside the department. Professor Amir looks outside the department, outside the college. Okay, these are the two contrasting philosophies that we have. Now, question to you, you can let us know via chat. What is your approach? What do you take to adopt for your line of, when you want to introduce a new change into your syllabus? What do you do? Professor Bowman's approach of looking inside the department and changing anything? Or do you look at Professor Amir's approach of looking outside the department, potential employees, students, and then thinking about change? Please let us know via chat. Sastra Buddhe, yes. Combination says Dr. Vijayashree. Anketa says culmination of both, a bit of both, says Bhuma Raman. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody for Bowman's approach alone or Amir's approach alone? Okay. Professor Savrit says Amir. Ms. Pratiksha says both. Okay. All right. Boma Amir says Dr. Deepali. Very clever. Okay. A combination of Professor Bowman's approach and Professor Amir's approach. Okay. Anybody else? Sakshi, Amir would like Amir's approach, but things have to be taken as per rules, so end up taking Bowman's approach. Thank you for being honest, Abhilasha. Prashant says both. Okay. Anybody else? What is your preferred approach? From my side, I'll tell you. About 10 years ago, I used to be Professor Bowman's approach. I definitely used to think of my own changes and then bring it about. Now I'm definitely leaning towards Professor Amir's approach. Alka, Suraj, all of you, Alka ma'am, Suraj sir, all Prashant sir, all of you have said both approach. Interesting. Thank you so much. I've never had so many combination approaches before. Depends on the syllabus or subjects. Hello. Okay. Dr. Geetanjali says, yes, yes. Somebody on the, yes, please. I couldn't hear you. Okay. Dr. C. Nilima says Amir's approach. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for your responses. Yes, indeed. There's no right or wrong answer to this. It could depend on the situation. And in the real world, like many of you observed, it's not a simple let's go with only Bauman's approach or let's go with only Amir's approach. We live in a connected world where we have to look at both sides. Okay. But in design thinking, we look at Professor Amir's approach primarily. That's where the focus is. Dr. Geetanjali asked me, what will be your research approach in today's session? Um, Mine, like I said, so I shifted towards Professor Amir's approach. That's what I like doing. And design thinking is entirely focused on Professor Amir's approach. Okay, doesn't mean you can neglect Professor Bowman's approach, because we need to go and take a look at what is the boundary condition, where what really works inside the system of the college. You can't have drastic changes in the syllabus in many courses, right? So we may have to take a combination approach, but my preference is definitely Professor Amir's approach of looking at what the students want, what the employers want, and then give them that. Okay, so in this we're going to talk about Professor Amir's approach primarily. Like again, I can't say it enough number of times that we will definitely look at Professor Bowman's approach as well. We need to analyze and find out what is it that our institute can offer as well within the constraints of our institute. What can we offer as well? Okay, so in design thinking, we look at the perspective of the people who are the recipients of our service, okay, of our or the users of our products, right? So in the teacher's case, it is the students who are receiving our output, or our services being received by our students. So we look at it from their perspective in design thinking. Primarily, we start there. Of course, we will also look at the college's perspective, the university's perspective, the board's perspective, all as well. Okay, later on. So I would definitely like to be in touch with all of you even after this session. This is for me, it's a start of a conversation. So I would definitely encourage all of you to be in touch via email. I'm connected on LinkedIn. I'm there on LinkedIn, or by my website as well. You can take a look and see if there's something of interest. You want to continue the conversation, I'll be happy to keep it going. So because I believe in the fact that, like I was talking to ma'am, that before, we used to just go over to somebody's seat and then talk. Right now, we're in a connected world, in a spread out world. We definitely like to keep in touch via electronic means as well. Okay. So this is a short course, according to me, with these 3 sessions that we're going to today. Is going to be like a short course, and there are learning objectives for this as well. My expectation that is that you will be able to recall phases and steps of design thinking. Okay, so if somebody asks you next week, one of your colleagues who didn't attend the session asks you, so what did you do in those 5 days? What is this design thinking all about? And then you're able to tell them, oh, these are the phases and steps of design thinking, A, B, C, D, and that's the first objective. The second objective, the colleague gets curious. Oh, what does that mean? What do you mean by something else? And then you're able to sort of explain to them what each of these phases and steps are. That will be the second objective of this course. The third one for me is even more important. Remember, I talked about action clubbed with empathy. So this is the part where we will apply and learn it for ourselves on real problems. Of course, it's nobody is going to grade you, or nobody is going to look over your shoulder whether you did it or not. It's entirely self-learning. So I will give you some metrics to gauge yourself and to find out how much you've learned and how much you can learn further. We will definitely do that as part of this course. Okay. Now, question to you: what's wrong with this picture? Anybody can tell me what's wrong with this picture? let me know via chat, or if you want to let me know, unmute and let me know, that's also okay with me. What is wrong with this picture? Is there anything wrong at all with this picture?
The circles are not exactly concentric in the universe.
Okay. Okay. So the circles are probably not concentric. They seem to be more elongated. Okay.
Elliptical, yeah.
Elliptical or oval. Okay. Good one. Anything else that is wrong with this picture?
Sun is blue.
Sun seems to be blue in color. Okay. Okay.
And so the orbit timing is looking different.
Orbit timing is looking very, very different. Excellent. Okay.
Planets are supposed to be revolving around the wrong planet. I mean, planets are supposed to be revolving around the sun, but they're
Yes, not the other way around. Yes, absolutely. Spot on. Perfect. You are, all of you are very, very sharp. Indeed, the Earth seems to be in the center, and rest of the stuff seems to be all around, and the sequence is all wrong. We can go on, and there are only 8, says Dr. Venkata. Absolutely, there are only 8. What about the remainder? Yes. So according to the legend, the blue seems to be Earth, the white is Moon. So this is completely wrong. This is a completely wrong model of the Earth itself, right? So in the good old days in medieval Europe, people used to believe in this model. This is called the geocentric model of the solar system. Of course, we know that this is the correct model of the universe. Yes, still the order is wrong, but at least the legend wise it is fine. Sun seems to be in the center, Mercury next, Venus, Earth, and Moon is revolving around the Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Okay, this is a model came about much later. This is in Europe, at least. This gentleman, my name Nicholas Copernicus, flipped the model between this geocentric model, where people believe that Earth is the center of the universe, not just the solar system. People said Earth is stationary, everything else revolves around us. I mean, it's not too hard to believe that model, right? When you look outside your window, you hardly see anything moving. Nothing gives away that we are on a fast moving planet, right? So that's what people believed back then. And this gentleman proved that no, I'm a mathematician, the equations are all wrong. So he simplified it and said sun is the center of the solar system. The model got a lot simpler. Okay, all that is fine. What does that got to do with design thinking, you might ask, right? So before design thinking came into existence, product centered or service centered model was extremely popular. And I was part of a company also where products were the key focus of our entire existence of the company itself, right? So any change that we want to bring about, we always thought about how do we tweak the product, what do we change in the product, and then offer it to the customers. Never did we once think that what do really customers want, right? So when the model was flipped, though, when humans became the center, the evolution, the product working time became a lot lesser. From 6 years to almost 6 months, it reduced. So the time that does somebody have a question? Possibly not. Okay. So the time of the evolution of a product, the working on a product became much shorter and much cheaper when the model was flipped. So that's what the correlation is, right? So when we move from the geocentric to the heliocentric model, our thinking became a lot easier. Same way when we move from product centric and service centric thinking to human centered thinking, the evolution becomes, the thinking becomes much easier. So this is the model that we have currently, is customer centric or learner centric, student centric model that has become into acceptance. And this goes back to Professor Sandeep's words, where he said it's no longer just a fashionable thing to say, but it's become the order of the day. It's no longer something that you can ignore, because customer centric and customers are not going to tell you what they want. Students are never going to come up and tell you, ma'am, we want this, or sir, we want this. They are not going to tell us that. we have a responsibility to figure this out and then adopt it in our syllabus. That's what the situation is. Even with products and services, no customer, I mean, there'll be a very, very tiny fraction of customers who will say what they want, but they actually don't mean what they want. So we have to figure out what is it that they exactly want. Okay, so that's the flip model, and that's why design thinking is called human-centered design, because it has the human being right in the center of the product or service universe itself. So if you think about the humans who are going to consume it or who are going to use it, that's when the thinking becomes richer. The development cycles also get faster. Okay, so that's the key part in design thinking. Okay, so if anything, in the end of today, all you remember is this: we are done. This is the main focus of our conversation today. Is design thinking is human-centered design. Okay. All right. So all that is fine, but where does design thinking really operate? What context does it really operate in? We'll give some background, some basics of finding out how the world works and where does design thinking really fit into that. Okay. Let's take an organization, any organization, even universities, work on this simple model that you take ideas and implement that in the form of a service or a product, and that leads to revenue. Even for non-profit organizations, this is true. They offer some kind of a service or a product that leads to revenue, and that's how the organization stays afloat, right? So there could be grants in case of non-profit or trusts and all that, but primarily we take ideas and implement them in the form of a service or a product, and that leads to revenue. Okay. Now, if you think about it, where do ideas really come from? Do they just pop out of vacuum, or do we have to wait for the apple to fall? Perhaps not. They are meant to solve problems. So wherever there are problems, so students have no clue what to do to learn, say, artificial intelligence, right? So they don't know that they even need this. So we as professors, we as teachers, think about, okay, how do I tell them about AI and this is a problem that students have. So we have a module in our syllabus saying that we can also point them towards some AI stuff, and that's our idea. And we integrate that into an existing course, which becomes part of a service or a product, right? The product is the course, service is what we teach. Give them a homework assignment and see how it relates to design thinking or communications or whatever. And that's how the course sort of becomes more popular. Okay, and more students take it, they get benefited out of it, and that's what the revenue stream for our colleges is, right? So this is how it operates. Great, so far so good. But whose problems are we talking about, right? So if you think about it, it's people, right? In our case, it's students or learners or whoever wants, or in companies there are employees or just regular consumers. We have a problem, and companies think of ideas, organizations think of ideas, they implement it in the form of a service or a product, and that will lead to revenue. Okay, so if I come up with an idea today, should I go ahead and put it into a service or a product? Suppose I design a fantastic railway coach, beautiful looking railway coach. I put it in front and ask you to board it. You may not do it because you don't know whether the wheel is going to come off in the next 100 meters. Is the roof going to fall off in a head? Because I've not really tested it. So not many like untested products. So it has to be tested, right? So you take an idea. I'm thinking AI. I've never taught AI before. I will teach it to a small audience and see if it really works, if it really grabs their attention. If not, I have to tweak my course so that the AI makes sense in the larger sense of the course, right? So then we integrate that into the service or product. So easy does it. We need to figure out what is it that people are going through, what are their needs, okay, and then find out if that is the exact need or is there something else, because people are not going to tell what they want. We have to figure this out, and then we generate a lot of ideas. We'll say, oh, you know what, my other professor and other college is teaching this. I'll go talk to that person and let's see if she has the modules. We can get some collaboration going. And then let's see for a small audience. Let's see for I will contact my postgraduate students and let's see if they like it. If they like it, then we'll roll it out to the bachelors as well and to the entire college. So that's how we do it. So right, slowly, steadily, we introduce it into mainstream, and that becomes our service, right? So very, very easy to do. This step sort of fits into how our organization works. But how do we actually find out what people are going through? What are the exact problems? What are there ways to do it? How do we generate ideas? What do we do when we're stuck for ideas? And how do we really test them? What do you mean by testing? Okay, that's something that was running in my mind when I was designing a course as well. So I said, let me introduce some help words which will elaborate what we are thinking, right? So one of them is empathize for people. So empathy is really understanding and feeling what people are going through. Right? So there are two parts to this. You understand from an intellectual standpoint. Yes, my students do need AI, okay, as a add-on to my syllabus. That's the part I understood. But do I feel what they feel? Right? They are fearful that their friends from other colleges are getting better placed because they have AI experience as well. That's the fear that they have. We need to understand that as well, or rather feel what they feel as well. So we need to understand what our audience is going through, also feel what they feel, right? So this is a part which is often neglected, which is the fear or the anxiety or the any emotion that you can think of. It comes under feeling. It could be happy also. It needn't always be negative emotion. If they are very happy doing certain activities, like they're very hands-on, they would like to go on field visits and learn from that. That's the joy, right? So we need to have more of activities in our course. That's the feeling we have. So we understand and feel what our audience is going through. But it's not enough if we just understand and feel and be happy about it. We need to find out what is the exact thing that we can help them out with. Okay. Now, if we wait for students, class representatives to come and tell us what their problems are, it's probably too late already. We really haven't understood or felt what they feel, right? So I always say our customers or users are like babies. Okay, they will cry, they will create lots of noise, but that's not the actual problem. You need to figure out whether the baby has a tummy ache or whether the baby is sleepy, bored. So we need to do that. Okay, before we get on to solve. Lots of my students, when they understand and feel problems, they immediately jump to solve. Okay, that is certainly something you should not do, because we don't know what the exact problem is. Why do they need AI? Because they're getting better placed. Okay, is their placement is the key that we are talking about. It is AI today, tomorrow it's blockchain, day after it's technology forecasting, whatever, right? So it is the fear that they will not get placed. That is the fear that we have to really tackle, not AI itself. AI is just one way to do it. Are there other ways? But we need to figure out what the exact problem is. So before jumping into solve and starting to integrate AI into my syllabus, I need to figure out what is it that the underlying needs are. That they need hands-on, that they need to be up to date with whatever is going out in the world. That's the underlying problem, really, right? So that I need to figure out and analyze. And then we generate a lot of ideas, saying some of them will be bad ideas, some of them we have already heard somewhere. They lack novelty, they lack creativity. But there are ways to even cheat that. I don't think we have time today to cover that. But there's some very, very interesting ways to generate ideas at will. Even if you think you're not so creative, you can come up with some brilliant ideas if you use those hacks, so to speak. Okay, that's in solve. And then finally, we test it by prototype. Again, two parts to this. We prototype. We have a little mock-up syllabus. We try it with some test audience, test students, to see how well it's received. And then while doing that, we actually test it out, right? So when we test it, we go back to empathize again. We again look at what people want, what is that they lack now in this, what is the activity that I can add. All that can be done in the test part of it. That's the next start of the next cycle. So this is how sort of design thinking works in its mechanism. Okay, it's very well connected to our organization, the way it works as well. Okay, so when I came up with this, I said, wow, this is great. This looks like an interesting way to look at a systematic process to look at anything before something becomes a service or a product, right? but I wasn't sure whether there are enough examples for this. So I started digging up literature and found out a few examples. One I found was in from Ireland. Okay, this is in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland. This depicts a famine that occurred in the 1850s. Okay. Okay. Before you wonder what's design thing you got to, I'll just bear with me a story I'm going to tell you. This is a story of an inventor called John, and he was born in a wealthy family. But he said, I'm not going to just sit on my family's wealth, I'm going to be my own person. So he started working for the railway industry, okay, railway steam engine industry in particular, because he's very good with designing and redesigning parts of the steam engine. So he started working with this, and one of his trips took him to Ireland at the time, where there was a famine going on. This was in the 1850s. So from England, John moved to Ireland for a business trip. He saw that people were suffering, right? So he understood what they understood. He understood that people were very hungry. Although he was from a wealthy family, he understood that they didn't have enough food. But he also felt, because without food it was going to be very, very tough for people. So yeah, he also felt that they were in distress. So he said, I'm going to take action now. It's not enough if I just understand and feel what people are going through. Came back and he quit his job. That was his action, first action. But before jumping onto the solution, he said, why are people going through this famine itself? Why is there a famine in Ireland? Turns out that potatoes are the staple diet of Ireland, and potato crops failed. Crop after crop, it failed. And the key reason in that was that the plowing process was pretty poor, because Irish soil was very thick. Okay, so he analyzed. Okay, so first he empathized, now he's analyzing, and he found out that the plowing process is not efficient at all, and he needs to improve this. So that was the core problem, the unsaid problem. Right? So he redesigned the. He wanted to redesign the plow or hull in Hindi, right? So he thought of lots of ideas to do this. Now he was into solve. So he thought a lot of ideas. He came up with many new interesting designs. Some of them he rejected, some of them really worked. And then he came up with a completely new prototype, completely different prototype. He took it to Ireland to test it with the farmers, and it worked. It really worked, because farmers would sit here and would break the soil. Okay, so it was very nice. It was very well done. But in the process, he said, how can I replace the horses as well? The plow, now I've redesigned it. How can I redesign the horses? So redesigning the horses, since because of his experience with steam engines, he took up a steam engine and he redesigned the steam engine. Okay, so his final design looked like this. He redesigned steam engine is here with the different wheels there so that they could go on the field. Here is the redesigned plow. Okay, the farmer sitting there. Excuse me. And he also added a seeder on the side. Okay, so the plowing process became extremely efficient, and it worked very well. So now he said, I'm a businessman, I would need to make money of this. The Irish farmers are benefited, but I still need to make money of other customers. He brought them for a demo. All the customers liked the plow, but they liked this device more. Now, your question to you, what do we know this device today as? This is a redesigned steam engine. It's still in use in today's farms and even in cities. You have to guess what this device is today. Any guesses on? Very nice. Absolutely spot on. Thank you so much. It is indeed a tractor. This is what the modern day tractor looks like. John Fowler was the inventor of the tractor, and he actually went through design thinking steps. As you saw, he empathized, then analyzed, and solved, and tested it with real Irish farmers, and he came up with this design. This is Mahindra's tractors, photographed in the US. You can see the the large wheel at the back that John Fowler had designed, and the front wheel in the front, which is for navigation purposes. So it worked very well, and John Fowler became very famous for his invention. Okay, now for me, I was thinking, what is the moral of this story? Yes, he had applied design thinking, But seems like design thinking is hard because it took him several years before he could come up with a good solution, right? So it wasn't easy. He had to give up his job. He has to, put his personal time. He had to spend a lot of money, and it wasn't easy by any chance, any stretch of imagination. And this was unpredictable because finally he was bent on redesigning the plow, but customers wanted the tractors, right? So they said, tractor is what we want. We don't want the plow. Okay, so it's very unpredictable, and of course it's difficult to learn because Mahindra is the top 10 manufacturers of the world. Mahindra is the third. John Deere and Massey Ferguson. These are the companies, not John Fowler and company, right? So obviously he didn't pass on his learnings to his successors. So it's difficult to learn. So our challenge is really to make design thinking easy, predictable, and easy to learn. Okay, this is our real challenge. How are we going to do that? So I was also baffled with this question. How am I going to ever make design thinking easy, predictable, and easy to learn? So many people have tried before. So I started thinking about this, and the answer didn't come easily. But it sort of coincided with my trip to this place. So I was doing research on this place. You have to guess where this place is. Where do you think this place is? You can see it. I can zoom it in if you want. Where in the world is this place? Anybody? Any guesses? Where could this place be?
Is it the ruins of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro?
Oh, good guess. It does look like ruins of Mohenjo-daro or Harappa. Excellent guess. Anybody else? Any other guesses? Okay, maybe I'll show you a little closer. How does it look like? A little closer, this is what it looks like. This picture. This is where I was planning a trip. Okay, so I'll give it. This is Ajanta Caves. Okay, not too far off from Pune. I think somebody got it. Yes, indeed, ma'am. Yes, this is true. These are caves, Ajanta Caves, which is about 250 kilometers from Pune. Amazing set of caves, the Buddhist caves. I was planning a trip to this. So I started reading about this. The story is that this is lost to humanity for 1,000 years. And then a soldier by name John Smith, who inscribed his name in one of the caves, rediscovered these caves. Okay, before he handed it to the British authorities back then in 1819, he wrote his name in one of the caves. So he vandalized basically. Okay, so it's fantastic set of caves. Pilgrims and tourists from all over the world pre-pandemic used to visit these UNESCO World Heritage Place. So very, very nice set of caves. I might sound like it's not only famous for its sculpture, but also paintings. These are 2,200-year-old paintings, preserved very well. It's still intact, undisturbed by time, and the colors are still so vibrant even today. I might sound like a tourist agent, but I'm not. But I would definitely strongly recommend that you go and visit these caves whenever the dust settles, and you can go and see it. Okay. One of the key features you'll see is Lord Buddha. His sculptures are everywhere in these caves. One of these, we're talking about understanding and feeling, right? So the feeling of people who are sad that Lord Buddha is leaving is so very well captured in stone here in the bottom row. And on top, people are seen very happy. These are angels who are happy that Lord Buddha is going to be with them really soon. So I really like that. I started reading about this. And I said, what were Lord Buddha's teachings? So I started reading about that. Turns out that he, in his first ever discourse in Sarnath near Varanasi, he said there are 4 noble truths. First noble truth is dukkha. Acknowledge that there is suffering in the world. So he said, just accept that there is indeed suffering. Okay. that this world doesn't operate without suffering. Just accept it. Okay, that's what he said in dukkha. The second noble truth he said was samudaya, is delve into the cause of suffering. It's not enough if you just accept it. Of course, the first step is acceptance. The second is to find out why is there suffering in the first place, right? So it could be due to several reasons: old age, diseases, loss of possessions, loved ones. All that could be some causes of suffering. Okay. Now that you've figured out the causes of suffering, in Nirodha, you think of ways to end the suffering once and for all. So you just put an end to the suffering. Think of ways by meditation, asking your mentors, your family, your community, and you think of ways to end the suffering. This is what he said in the third noble truth. The fourth noble truth was, it's not enough if you just think of ways to end the suffering, but act on it, get on the path to end the suffering once and for all, or walk on the marga to end the suffering once and for all. This is what he said. But when I saw this, I said this is one-to-one correlated with what I was thinking of in terms of the phases of design thinking. Dukkha correlates with empathize, where we accept that the design that we have for our course, the design that we have for our product or service is not perfect, and that there is some suffering still remaining unsolved. That we'll accept first. We'll find it out. What is the suffering that they're going through? Just accept it. Okay, that's the empathize. Second is, now that we know what they are going through suffering, and there is some situation which is not yet resolved, we analyze and find out how is it, what are the root causes of their suffering. Our students, our employees, our consumers, whoever, why is it that they're going through this situation? Find that out, right? Once you find that out, solve it, put an end to the suffering once and for all. Think of ways to end the suffering once and for all. That wasn't solved. And then at the end, walk on the path to end the suffering for once and for all. It's not enough if you just think of ways to end the suffering, but walk on the path, think of ways, put a little action plan, put a prototype, and see how we can actually, how their life is better now that you have their solution. Okay. Of course, Lord Buddha didn't stop there. He also warned us, saying that don't take my word for it, apply this for yourself. Remember, I talked about doing it for ourselves, applying it and learning. This is our third course objective, which is what we will do in the second and third session of today. We'll apply this for ourselves and learn and convince ourselves whether it works or not for us. Okay. And he also went on to say, Lord Buddha also went on to say that there are cycles. We'll come to that in a little bit. So that brings us to what is so karmic about this, right? If you remember my title slide, it was karmic design thinking. It wasn't just design thinking. You were told that we were going to learn about design thinking, but I put an extra tag to it, karmic design thinking. So why the word karmic? Okay, let me give you a simple example. This is a watch that was extremely popular in the 80s and 90s. I remember wearing it and being very proud among my friends. I used to, show it off to my friends, saying, "This is the watch I have." Okay, of course, this is no longer in vogue. The watches have transformed, they have changed, but the functionality, the basic need of measuring time and predicting time events still stays. Okay, it is still around. Okay, that's what the basic functionality of this watch was. As you can see in this first ever smartphone that was launched in 2004, this is the iPhone 1. You can see that the clock is still here, right? So that's the first thing. So the functionality of measuring time and predicting time and forecasting time was inbuilt into our first set of smartphones. Of course, in the later versions of the iPhone or any other smartphone, also you will see that the clock is still there, or the need to measure time and to forecast is there. But is it a recent 80s, 90s need to measure and predict and forecast? Probably not, as is evidence in this Mayan wheel. Was designed way back when. Okay, so you can see that these are representative of the 18 months that the Mayans had, and they had 20 days in these 18 months, and there was a 19th month which had 5 days, so that making up for 365 days. And they could predict celestial events. They could predict the cycles of life, and all through just this wheel. So the need to predict and measure time has always been there, as is also evidence in something closer home here, the beautiful Konark wheel. Each of these wheels represents 3 hours, and there are 8 wheels, so that's 24 hours a day. You can very, very accurately measure time using this device. Okay, so the need to measure time transcends these devices and gadgets. So solutions evolve much, much faster than the problem itself. In fact, the need to measure time has not gone away at all. Okay, so that's the karmic nature of design thinking itself, that it carries over and over again. Okay, it's very iterative in nature. So that's why we stress a lot on the first 2 parts with empathize and analyze. Now, one of the questions that one of my students had was, how do I remember these things? I mean, you give me 4 terms. How do I remember? Is there a hack for this? And I asked the same question, and one other student had this answer, saying that, sir, all I remember is East. You've given us so many stories from the East. So all I remember is East for design thinking. Empathize, analyze, solve, and test. So all I have to remember is East, and I remember the steps of design thinking: empathize, analyze, solve, and test. Okay, so like I said, it's very iterative in nature. Iterative is the repetition of pattern of EAST: empathize, analyze, solve, and test. They are very similar to this picture. It's a mathematical pattern called fractals, which is a repetition of the same pattern over and over again. Why did I show you this? Okay, it's like design thinking itself with the process of EAST, which is a repetition of this process of empathize, analyze, solve, and test over and over again, so that we can get these beautifully designed products and services that we enjoy every day all around us, right? So if you zoom in, you can see that every product is made of empathize, analyze, solve, and test, which in turn has components which are made in the process of empathize, analyze, solve, and test. Okay, sort of to signify that. Okay, and now I'll show you a little video on where this product was entirely based on empathy for a garbage picker. Okay, I used to be working for this company called Mindtree. They said, what can we do to make their lives better, the garbage pickers' experience, because they inhaled all sorts of toxic gases and their life expectancy was very, very low. So in combination with technology, and we tried to make their lives better, as you will see in this video.
India is experiencing a growing waste management crisis. High amounts of plastic consumption is producing staggering volumes of plastic waste each day. With increasing waste generation and inefficient systems for treatment and disposal, the impact on environment and health is severe. One of the solutions that has emerged over the years to tackle this challenge is to hold producers of consumer goods more accountable for their waste. This current state of the waste economy has put the spotlight on existing recycling processes in cities. iGot Garbage Technology Platform partnered with an extended producer responsibility program to facilitate traceability and predictability of waste value streams in 10 cities. The partnership worked with waste pickers, government agencies, social enterprises, and citizens to build inclusive reverse supply chains for plastic waste. The iGot Garbage platform achieves this by enabling waste picker-run material recovery centers across the country to operate via an entrepreneurship-driven model. The platform serves as the technology backbone to support and streamline operations of Swachhata Kendras for recovery and processing and final sale to recyclers. Waste pickers are trained to use technology to bring more structure into daily operations, including transactions with buyers and sellers, stock management, and business reporting. Further, the technology enables tasks across the value chain such as waste pickup, collection, buy, sell, process, stock management, and many more. As a result, the platform empowers waste pickers as independent entrepreneurs with access to the marketplace, fair wages, and skills development. This formalizes the waste management process, bringing more structure and transparency into the material recycling system. Such an ecosystem provides them with higher income, better working condition, and a greater ownership in the value chain. Moreover, the model enables buyers, sellers, aggregators, and recyclers to come together, interact, and transact through a dedicated marketplace on the platform. The technology captures data at every stage, enabling real-time monitoring and tracking waste flow from start to end. This is made simpler by IGG's analytics and reporting tools, which allow stakeholders to view real-time data on operational, livelihood, and environment impact areas. IGG's technology enables partners to monitor and review operations on field while bringing visibility over traceability and recycling, market prices, and socio-economic benefit to waste pickers. The magnitude of India's waste management challenge is too complex to be solved by governments alone. It requires relevant stakeholders to think about how they can collaborate and contribute to sustainable change. Such collective action offers great potential for creating impact at scale. I Got Garbage aims to create impactful transformations in recycling systems and make them more transparent and inclusive.
So that is Mindtree's I Got Garbage, an initiative that started off with only Bangalore, but now has expanded to other cities, where their vision is to have at least 10% of garbage going through their system and give the garbage picker dignity in life and a better experience as well. So it started with empathy. Okay, so that's what I wanted to give. So that brings us to the end of this session, where I introduced you to the concept of design thinking, karmic design thinking, the steps involved, and all that. So if there are any questions, this will be a great time to sort of take them right now. Are there any questions for me?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, would you classify Indian Jugaad as design thinking?
Okay. So Jugaad, a great question. Thank you so much for that question. Jugaad, as I understand it, is working with the constraints of our system and the rules that we have, and so many other factors that are so unique to us that we have to think of ways that are not mainstay, and you have to circumvent all that. So definitely that is the solve part of it. But for that solve to be effective and to be accepted, you need to have done the analysis well. So what they don't tell you in cases where they report Jugaad is the fact that they actually know what the problem is. They've been with that problem for a really long time, and they've understood from a customer's point of view what people are going through. Either they have experienced that themselves, or something that they have seen somebody else go through. So oftentimes I find that the cases are reported very well. It's very inspiring to see some of the cases of application of Jugaad, but the backstory is definitely that they've been entrenched into the system, and they say, okay, I have to do something to get out of this, break the shackles, and that's when they come up with that breakthrough idea in Solve. Okay, so always try to quiz how did you come to know that this was a problem to be solved. So that is always my trigger question to ask them. Okay, so that's for me, I see the Jugaad as the sort of one element in this whole chain itself, and there is a backstory, and that's where I would be curious to find out what the backstory of this new way of thinking is. I hope I answered your question, ma'am, or if there's a follow-up, you can definitely ask me.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you so much for that
Actually,
interesting
the
question. Yeah.
jugaad is also a name for a vehicle which they are using for transporting, which they attach along with the machine of the tractor. If you have seen, you must be knowing it, of course.
Okay. Oh, is that right? Oh, I didn't know. That is the origin. Huh? Okay. I learned something new. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? This is very interesting.
I would request participants, if you have any question, then you can unmute yourself or put your questions into the chat box.
Yes, please. Yeah. Anybody? Any questions? Wow, you're letting me go easily.
Sir?
Yes, yes, sir. Please tell me.
Prashant Kulkarni. Can you elaborate how you relate karmic design thinking to the innovation and entrepreneurship? Because karmic theory relates to somewhat spirituality. So how you are relating spirituality with innovation?
Very nice. So, for me, innovation is about making. So, if you remember I can break the chart again. Let me just give me a minute. And a great question, sir. Thank you so much for that. Let me go back to my slide with the organization stuff. Yeah. So let me share my screen again. Okay. So if you remember that this is the backstory of these 4 steps was that so this is that. So design thinking is here, right? So design thinking operates here, and I've correlated this with the 4 noble truths of Lord Buddha, who said, you have to have empathy for people, but take action as well. So this is the empathy, we take action, right? So all this still falls under invention. Okay, so invention is thinking about what people want and solving problems for them and building prototypes. Okay, I was a research scientist. I have done these processes myself, so I know that this is where invention stops. But where I stop and where innovation sort of gets into is the latter half of the cycle, right? So once we know that this works very well and it actually solves people's problems, we need to make it, formalize it, and make it useful for people. Of course, revenue may not be there initially, but as long as something is useful for somebody, it becomes innovative, right? Innovation is not new idea. According to me, innovation is not just new ideas, but it should be at the service of somebody whose life becomes better, right? So when you call somebody an innovator, they have taken ideas and made it and inventions and made it useful for somebody, made sure that their life is better than what it was before. So those are innovators. That's for me, the difference between invention and innovation. Okay, so that's first part of yours, right? So invention stops here as well. Once you make it, innovation, again, invention is the first half, innovation is still here. You haven't made any revenue from that. This is where the entrepreneurship sort of stems thing, right? How do you make it a viable business, right? How do you make it business viable? That's the entrepreneurship part of the story. Even if you're inside a company, in an organization, if you're thinking of it on your own, that I'm going to now bring in new revenue streams of revenue for my organization, even though you haven't started the organization, you are not the founder of that organization, you're still thinking like this, you become what we call an entrepreneur. Okay, so this is what, even in if you look at this is from the Stanford School of Thought, is they look at sorry yeah, so they look at three things, right? So okay, I'm going to, these are crudely drawn circles, but they will convey the point. So this is the technical feasibility, right? So even if it's a course, whether it is actually possible to teach AI also, going back to my example of bringing that, or if it's a product, can it be made? Can you actually make it? So T stands for technical feasibility. Okay, okay, now I know it's made, but do people really want it? Do customers want it? Customer desirability, does it exist? And finally, it has to be business viable. And this is where the entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship comes. Unless something is viable in a business term and it's technically feasible, which means it works, and that people want it, it's a desire, you cannot get innovation going in a company or in an organization. Okay, so to me, design thinking sort of brings in all of this, but it's a precursor. Unless you do these 4 steps before, you're not going to get a service or a product that is useful, because you're just designing a new service or a product whether people want it or not. That's why you see lots of failed services and failed products, because they did not understand what people really wanted. If you look at all the startups that have failed, it is because they were so focused on the technical aspect of it, they didn't know whether people really wanted it or if there was a business case in that. Right? That's where the startups normally fail. I work with a lot of startups. 9 out of 10 of them fail. They don't even cross a year because and we know the problems, that we really have tough time accessing what people really want, and people are not going to come and tell you what they want. We have to figure this out. That's why it's a hard game. Okay, the entrepreneurship part of it. So this philosophy helps you in the first half, but the second half is still something that we have to sort of figure. But there is a sort of chain to this. You do this more often, you do this many times over, you really have a good grasp on what people want, and then it becomes innovative. And eventually, when things become innovative, people see the value to it. We start generating revenue. Okay, so this is sort of my connection of all this together. Hopefully, I answered your question, sir.
Yes, sir. Great answer, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Sir, there is a question in box.
Okay.
I read it out for you.
Sure, please.
According to you, which step in design thinking is critical and needs close monitoring? That is by Dr. Vijayashree.
Okay, great question, Dr. Vijayashree. I think that empathize is something that I feel is critical. Okay, this is a personal bias, because some people are blessed with empathy. Naturally, it comes for them. They don't really have to be taught how to empathize. For them, they can just they naturally think of what other people want and what they're going through, what is their understanding, and their feeling. They can immediately get it. But for people like me, I need to be taught how to do this. So, and I am an engineer, so for me, I find that many engineers suffer this, right? We understand, but we rarely feel. Okay, I'm making a sweeping statement here, but that's from my own experience. Is that I think that if we can understand and feel, put that two together, we can really get to the heart of the matter, heart of what people are going through. Lots of good products are are products that we really like. It's not just because of the functionality that we go for it, but it's because they appeal to us at some emotional level, at a very, very deeper level. And that's why we use some of the products that we use, some of the service that we use, right? We still go to a neighborhood store because we have that personal connect for so long, right? For 10 years, as from kids, we've been going to that store, and we'll continue to do that. We'll ask our kids also to go to the same store because they have an emotional connect. Okay, so that's one of the for me, I find that it's one of the key things that differentiates products from each other, the emotional connect we have with that particular product. Once it becomes functional, it just becomes a little nuanced, little things here and there changes it. but we are no longer attached to a certain product or service. We just, at the end of 2 or 3 years, we throw the product out and we get a new one, because we are not really emotionally attached to that. There's no really clawing you to a particular product. Those are the ones which last, long, the emotional connect that you've had. Even the Casio story I told you was a fond memory of mine from my childhood days, that I used to love wearing a Casio watch. Not that it was great or just because it could tell time accurately, but it felt very good to show, look at how cool the watch looks like, right? So that for me is that emotional connect, and that's what transcends time. When you look at those Mayan wheels or the Konark wheels, you're like, wow, how did they do this? How did they get such accurate clocks way back when without any advanced technology? So for me, that emotional connect is extremely critical, and that's what I would solutions come and go, the products keep changing. What is the hot piece of technology today is almost gone in the next 5 years, but that need, the emotional need, the emotional connect is for me key. I hope I answered your question, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Or we can take a break right now.
I think there are no questions.
Okay,
Sir.
fine, great. No questions, good. So we can take a break, sir?
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
can. Will you take
Okay.
a break of 15 minutes then?
Sure, sure. Let's say 12:05. Okay.
Sorry.
No, I thought in a couple of minutes we can start, but anyway, I'm ready.
Okay, then we'll start then.
Okay, great, sir. Thank you so much. Let me just pull up my slides here. Okay. Okay, welcome back, everyone. This session will be hands-on. From now on, it's going to be hands-on. So if you have not brought your notebooks and pens, this would be a good time to bring them up. I have just a regular notebook and pen for us to work on a case. Okay, so you can pick any cases. I'm going to give you an example, and what is it that you'll be working on? I'll definitely let you know. Okay. So let me start. The first step of design thinking is empathize. So where this is the phase where we understand and feel what our users, or what our customers, what our students, what our learners are going through, right? So whoever is the recipient of our output, whether you are in an office, whether you're teaching, whether you're customer facing, whether you're a software programmer, somebody who receives the output, our output, and benefits out of that is our customer, so to speak. That's a very, very loose definition of customer. And those are the ones that we will empathize with. Okay. So, in order to illustrate how empathize really works, I have a case study that I had worked on in the past with one of my colleagues. This is a mobile case study, a kid's mobile case study. Back then, we were very concerned that children are spending a lot of time on with mobile devices. That thing has not gone away. In fact, it's gone even more severe than what it was because of the pandemic. People had to switch to online school. So the number of hours of these kids spending on mobile devices has only increased. But our focus was on the leisure time also being consumed by mobile devices, particularly gaming and all that. So that's what our focus was in this study, is how do we look at this? Because I'm obviously not a kid and my colleague is not a kid either, but both of us have children. So we said we want to empathize with these children and see what's going on from their point of view. Okay, so that was the main core of this case study, and you'll see it in the next phase as well. So we were interviewing a lot of children and trying to find out what is it that they're going through. There's a method that we will use called customer journey mapping. And in that, the first step is identifying a persona. Okay. Now, what does it mean identifying a persona? Is very, very simply put, it is coming up with a name, location, and an age. Okay. Like a character in a movie, right? In a movie, you have a hero or a heroine or a character. You will know their name, where they are, and what's their age. Fictional, non-fictional, in movies it doesn't matter, but in our case it matters. So we find out where they are from, what is their age, and the name, because we want to know what their gender is. Okay. Why are these three important? These three are important because a boy's experience in who's 10 years old, let's say Pranav's experience in Pune, India, who's 10 years old also, may be different from Akanksha's experience. Okay, so we can do another journey map for Pranav. The location is important because, say, a person, Akanksha, is in, I don't know, Ladakh. Her experience may be different from Akanksha in Pune, right? So that's why location is important. And let's say Akanksha is from Pune, but she's 26 years old. The experience is very different, right? So what she looks at devices is going to be completely different. So we need these three details. These details are called ethnography or demography. People use several terms. Whatever be the term, we want their name, the location, and age. This is what we do for any persona that we are tracking. Okay. Now, the description I've added so that it becomes richer. This is a human being we are trying to connect at an emotional level, at an understanding level, intellectual level. So I write few details. These are all based on all the interviews that we had, and it's a summation of that. Some of them are I have added to add in color, but mostly it's from interviews. So she lives in Pune, India. Her family members are her elder brother and parents. She loves chocolates, aspires to be a badminton player, hates assignments and exams from her school. She owns a tablet and would like to own a pet or a dog or a fish. Okay, so this is her character description, so to speak, sort of a almost like a story. Okay, so this is who our persona is. What does she do when it comes to playing a mobile? This is what customer journey map looks like. Okay, this is the first part of it. You will see that there's a word called before. Okay, that's the first thing we will see. That it is divided into three parts. First part is before. Okay, and customer journey map. First and foremost, we are looking at what is the activity that we are shadowing this lady. Okay, Akanksha. That's playing a mobile game. Okay, she's trying to play a mobile game, and we are trying to look at it from her perspective. What is going on? Okay, that's the journey map. Very visual so you can see that there are three steps. So here is where the persona is. All right, so that's the second one. We have the activity written down, and the third is the persona that we defined early on. We have put it down here. Okay, fourth thing you will notice is the number of the steps that are there. So that's the fourth thing that you will notice. Okay, Akanksha comes home from school. She finishes her homework quickly. She reaches for her mobile device and switches it on. Okay, so that's what she does. So at an intellectual level, I understand what she does. Right? She comes home from school, finishes her homework, and reaches for the mobile device. So before playing the game, this is what she does. You can also see a fifth element, which is the emotion. Remember, I talked about understanding and feeling in empathize. So this is the feeling part of it. I know that she's very happy. I'm also feeling what she feels. She's very happy reaching out for her mobile device and switching it on so that she can play her game. Okay. The next phase is during. The second phase, customer journey map during, is she resumes the saved game, plays she snacks, she eats snacks while playing the game, plays the game at dinner time as well. This is something that Akanksha didn't tell us. So interviewing what the customer is doing doesn't help. So we'll have to observe what they do also. Okay, sometimes they may not tell you all the steps. So going to a customer location and finding out through observation really helps. Okay, plays the game at dinner time as well. So again, intellectually, the understanding and the feeling, all of this. She seems to be happy during the this part of this journey. Last part of the journey is after, before, during, and after. She stops playing on the mobile devices and watches TV to another device now. Okay, and finally, at the end of the day, she has to power down the mobile device, and that makes her sad that she won't be able to play the game till the next day. So that's something that she's sad about. Next day, she boasts about her achievements in the game to her school friends. Okay, again, very happy because this is why she plays the game. Day after day, this is why she plays, right? She can go and tell all her friends about her achievements. I got 30,000 points and 40,000 this and all that, right? So somebody says screen is blurred. Sandeep sir, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't know. Maybe
It becomes blur, sir, sometimes.
sometimes is it? Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll turn off my video. Maybe that will help. It is blurred, somebody says. Maybe my internet connection is a bit slow. Let me just switch my internet and see if that helps. Just give me a minute, please. Okay, I'm back. I just switched to another internet. Hopefully this is better.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm back on here. Okay, I'll just repeat it for people who probably missed this previous one. So this is the customer journey map before playing a mobile game, and we track the persona Akanksha 10 years old, and these are the steps, the understanding and the emotional tracking as well. Okay, so okay, some people are saying now it is clear, now it is blurred. Okay, I really don't know. Okay, so this is during. She resumes the saved game, snacks while playing the game, plays the game at dinner time. So this is the during part of the activity itself. The last part, I will share these slides with you, so don't worry. Just now, it'll all make sense when you have it, and when you do it yourself, even better, right? So watching me do it is one part of it. The next part of it is doing it yourself. Okay. Now we have a list of problems. So what do we do with this customer journey map? We list down the problems that we saw. Kid is playing on the mobile for most of her spare time. So that's a big problem that we've had is the kid, which is what we started out with. This was no surprise because, but we had to be sure. This was just based on a hunch that my colleague and I had, but now we are very sure based on what we had interviewed and what we had observed. Looks like the kid was playing on the mobile for most of her spare time, and without her knowledge itself, she is snacking and eating while playing on the mobile. Okay, so this she didn't even know what snack she was eating, and how much she had. She had no recollection of that. Okay, so that was another problem that we noticed. And she spent very little time playing outdoors. Okay, because she was on the device for such a long time. All of her spare time, and I'm not talking about online school or any such thing, but I'm just talking about all the spare time that she had. She rarely went outside. There were a few kids who spent some time outdoors, but predominantly they were on their mobile device playing their game. Some people even played till midnight. Okay, so it's quite a long time that they're playing on the mobile phone. So this is what we found as the list of problems. Now, if we can leave it at here and say we can start solving it, but we don't do that in Empathize. We pose that as questions. Okay, how do we make it a question? Very, very simple way to do it. First of all, add a question mark at the end. Okay, so very simple. Add a question mark at the end. That doesn't make it a question yet. We add something called how might we at the start. Okay, how might we? What does HMW stand for? How might we? How might we? And then the statement and then the question. Okay, now we'll see the example of that. How might we reduce the time of playing on the mobile? So I took the same problem and made it into a question. Okay, this is not a solution. Okay, this is a question that you're asking. How might we reduce the time of playing on the mobile? You don't have to answer this question yet. How might we reduce snacking or eating while playing on the mobile? Okay, that is the second problem that we noticed. How might we encourage playing outdoors? So this was the third problem that we had noticed. Put that in the form of a question. Okay, why a question? So the question actually makes us think of it as a problem that can be solved. How might we, and then we state the problem. It gives our brain ways to think about the fact that it is not an unsolvable problem. It can be solved. Sometimes we get totally bogged down by, oh my god, how am I ever going to solve this, when you see a problem statement. So instead of a statement, we make it into a question. Okay, now to summarize, what does customer journey mapping involve in Empathize is creating a persona, thinking of that person uh, whom we are trying to help. So in that sense, we are trying to figure out what does this persona look like. Okay, if you remember, we had three elements to this: the name, okay, the location, and the age. So these are three things: demography, name, location, and age. Write the customer's activity. That is important because we are trying to help them or observe them in when we are doing something. Okay, could be drawing cash from the bank, it could be attending a class, it could be registering. We'll give you scenarios so that you can imagine yourself doing for your. Okay, you can ignore this for somehow. This is for the workshop. We use this script. Write the major steps of the user experience. Okay. Mark the emotional highs and lows using smileys and saddies. Okay, so that was this is the understanding part of it. This is the feeling part of it. So this is understanding, this is the feeling. Remember, in empathize, there are two steps, understanding and feeling. Okay, write a list of problems. What are the problems that people are facing? Convert them into questions. You saw me do that for those 3 questions, right? How might be questions? All right. So you've been listening to my talk so far. Now is the time for action. Okay. We're going to work on these. You can pick any of this. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this. I'll be sharing this slide anyway with you. You can also take a look at this. What these are, or if you want to note it down, that's also fine. You pick one scenario from 5 of these. So there's an out-of-town student. They are sick after parents left for home. Okay, this is this person who's feeling totally homesick after the parents left for home. They are there now in your college, in the town, in your university, but they are from out of town. They are not from our location. Okay, or the second scenario could be principal or head of your organization. They observe your task is to observe them arranging for a function. They're making arrangements for a function. Your task is to see where they will need help by observing them. You don't jump into a solution straight away, but trying to see, get into their, get under their skin, get into their shoes, trying to figure out what is it that they do when they are arranging for a function in your college or university. Or the third scenario could be a cleaner or guard in your organization. They work at the gate or they take care of your ground floor, for example. Okay, that is the scenario you can probably empathize with. Or you take a local student who attends late evening classes. Okay, it may not be the best thing for them because they're a local student, they want to go home, but they have to attend late evening classes. Sometimes we have to do that as professors, we have to do that. Okay, and lastly is a dignitary visiting your organization. There's a first time visitor. I think somebody raised their hand. Dr. Deepali, is that you? Okay. So, is a dignitary visiting your organization. They're a first time visitor to your place. So, they have never been to your city. And this is the first time ever that they visit. You have to empathize with them. Okay. So, you can take a pick one scenario from this. Okay. And so, what do you do? What do you have to do? What is your list of activities that you need to be doing? Pick one mock scenario from those 5 scenarios. Okay, you will draw a customer journey map in a notebook or using a notebook and a pen. People use PowerPoint also if you want. That's up to you, but I recommend drawing it out because your entire brain is involved in the drawing activity and the writing activity. And eventually you need to list down the problems and find out where the emotional highs and lows are. Emotional situations can also be problems to solve. How might we reduce the anxiety of a out of town student when they are sick? Okay, that's an emotional situation they are in. That could be a problem to solve as well. Now you need to write down 2 to 3 how might be questions. Right now we are not interested in solutions. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to share this slide deck with you, the empathize part of it. I checked in the morning, it was accessible to me. If it is not, please do let me know. I'll check again. Okay. So you will have about 10 minutes time to do this activity. It's 12:23 by my watch. So about 12:35, we will stop and we'll do self-evaluation. If you have any questions or any doubts, you can ask me via chat or unmute yourself and ask me the question. There are 10 minutes for this activity. Any questions on this? What needs to be done? So it's your turn to use these slides that I've provided in the chat and take a look at what needs to be done, which is to first of all pick a mock scenario. Okay, let me share that screen again. Pick a mock scenario, draw a customer journey map. Okay, with the steps that are given in the slides. List the problems of your customer. Okay, after drawing the journey map, then find out where they are sad. That could also be one of the problems. Write down how might be questions at the end. Okay, and right now we're not interested in the solutions. I've already given you the slides. Okay, 10 minutes for this activity. Okay, about a minute remaining to finish this activity. In case you need more time, let me know via chat or just unmute and let me know that you need more time. Okay, time's up. So we're going to stop this one and done. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, so hopefully you are able to use this time to build a customer journey map for a scenario that you have chosen. Now is the time to evaluate yourself and see how well you've done on this activity. Like I said, this is design thinking is best when it is applied. So you can speak from experience when you're teaching your students. So this is the experience that I have learned from my own experience. So I thought it will be a good way to get into design thinking. So let's self-evaluate. Okay. So give yourself 1 mark if you have written down a name and an age for your customer. Okay. So even if you're not you've written a name, but you've said a woman or a man or boy or a girl or whatever, still it's okay. Give yourself that mark. Age, what is not acceptable is 18 to 55 or 24 to 36. That range is too big. So if you're around 1 or 2 mark, or if you're given the exact age, give yourself 1 mark. Okay. So 1 mark if you've written down name and age of customer. 1 mark for location of the customer, city, village, town. If you have a specific name, that will be great. Put down a city. If you just say, oh, all over India, that doesn't work very well, because what is true for, I don't know, Nagaland may not be true for Rajasthan, right? Some city in Rajasthan. So Kohima versus Jodhpur may not be the same situation, right? So you have to be very specific, and you have to target that particular city. In fact, even in cities you might find variation, but we can't go to every area in a city. So if you have just written down the name of a city, that's fine. Even if it's a large city, it's okay. 1 mark if you've written down the name of a city or a town or a village even. Okay. That's 1 mark. 1 mark for writing down the main activity of the customer. What is the customer doing? Right. So that is important because they're trying to get something done. So in the case of Akanksha, she was trying to play the video game, the mobile game rather. And that was the activity that we were trying to shadow her, what she's doing. So that's the main activity, and that needs to be up there. Okay. If you've written it down, give yourself 1 mark. 1 each for if you divided your journey map into 3, before, during, and after. Okay. Before, during, and after, give yourself 1 mark each. So that's 3 marks for this. If you've written down all in one, just give yourself 1 mark. Or you can even do it now. No, okay. This is self-learning. I leave it to you and your honesty. Okay. I'm not going to come and check whether you've done it right or not. Your professors, you know how this works. So 1 mark for before, 1 mark if you put during, 1 mark if you put after. If any of these is missing, give yourself 1 mark. Okay. Some of my students write the entire story in one long format. The reason we do before, during, and after is because we want to know not only what they do during that activity, but what happened before that. What is the preparation that they were doing, and after the activity, what did they do after they're done with the activity? After the evening classes, what did they do before coming to the evening classes? Where were they? That's important, because we will know their full story rather than just the time when they were attending the evening classes, right? One mark if there is at least one smiley or one sad face in your customer journey map. This is critical, because oftentimes I've been guilty of this in the past, that I've completely missed out on the emotional journey of the customer, of the user, right? So that is important, and that has to be tracked. As much as is our intellectual understanding important, is the emotional part. Usually gets brushed aside. We think about it, we do pay attention to it, but it's the intellectual part. What is it that we can convey to our students? That is more important. But what about the joy? What about the happiness that we provide to for our students and users? That's even more. Even the anger that we have sometimes when they don't do the work we ask them to do. So those are things that need to be tracked for sure. Okay. If you listed down the problems, I'm sure all of you got this 1 mark. Okay. If you listed down the problems, give yourself 1 mark. Okay. How many have we so far? 1, 2, 3, and 3 marks here. 6, 7, and 8 so far. Okay. 1 mark if you've written down how might we questions. Okay, in the form of a question. Okay, taken the problem and converted that into a question. How might we, and then the problem statement. So that's the how might we question. If you've done this, give yourself 1 mark. If you have not, this is a negative. Okay, if you have not listed a solution, then give yourself 1 mark. If you have said, oh, they should attend the late evening class from home, or they should do it through mobile phone, or they should do it on their travel home, or something like that. If you said, that's a solution, and you should not give yourself that 1 mark. Okay. If you're not stated anything, just see here in empathize, we keep our ears and eyes open. We are not here to suggest solutions straight away. We are just trying to open our mind to saying, what is it that our users, our students, or learners, or employees, or consumers are going through? What does their experience look like? We are opening everything up and waiting to learn from them. That's what is going on in empathy. So we are not interested in. So we don't know yet. So solutions will make no sense at this stage. Okay. Total your score out of 10. There are 10 marks in this. Total your score should be out of 10. And if you are willing, please do share them in the chat if you're okay to share it. If you're not, I'm not going to put you down. Oh, thanks, ma'am. 866. Thank you so much for sharing your score. It takes a lot of guts to share it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pratiksha, ma'am. Thank you, Vijayshri, ma'am, Bhuma, ma'am, and Sania, ma'am. Thank you so much. Sakshi, ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your marks. Okay. Vishal, sir, thank you so much for sharing it. Anketa, ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your marks. Okay. All right. Okay. Applause to everyone. Oh, Prashant sir, thank you so much. Applause to everyone who has attempted this. Thank you so much. It takes a lot of effort to empathize for someone else. That's going to take a lot of effort. You've done that. Thank you so much. If you've not done it, I would strongly encourage you should do this activity. It's worth your while. It's definitely worth the time that you spend on this. Okay. So that's what we do in empathize. So we are actually done with empathize. Now we move on to analyze. Okay. So I know I had suggested that we will do this in the afternoon. We will do something else in the afternoon as well. If we have time, we'll also do solve. That's the fun part. Okay. So we'll get on to analyze next. Analyze is is when we take those problems, the how might we questions from the previous step in empathize, and we look at under the lens and we try to look into what are the specifics of the analysis, okay, of the problem itself, the analysis of the problem itself. What is, because 9 times out of 10, the problem that we perceive and empathize is not the ultimate problem to solve. I found that through my experience as well, and I teach it to my students. They also come up with a completely different problem and a much deeper problem after they've done analyze. Okay, one of the tools that we will do two of them. One of the tools that I have really found it easy to learn is this multi-why tool. Okay, there's a question. Oh, thank you, Amal sir, for sharing this. The multi-why is a tool that is the easiest to learn, but the toughest, one of the toughest to apply as well. But you will see that it's quite easy to learn. Why is it tough? Not because it's difficult to ask questions, but difficult because the answers are difficult to come by initially. Okay, so let's look at what it is. It's nothing but Toyota's 5 whys approach, which was popular in the 70s, used in quality and all that in the 70s and 80s. It became extremely popular in the shop floor, but now it's sort of crossed that shop floor barrier. It's everywhere. It can be used everywhere. Kids use this all the time. Even my kid, when he was very young, used to ask me why so many times. Every time I had to come up with an answer to that. You know, why is the grass green? Why is the sky blue? Things like that. But it used to take me so much of time to prepare for that, and I used to answer, and you'd ask why is that, and it goes on, right? So you know how difficult it is to answer those. And Toyota made it extremely popular because it led them to the root cause of the problem, so that whenever there's a recurring problem, you can actually solve it at a much deeper level. And it the good part is when you solve it at a deeper level, it also solves it at the surface level. Okay, so that's the advantage of this multi-way approach. Let's start with an illustration. And I'm sure some of you or many of you have faced this situation in the past. There's a particular student who comes to late to class regularly. Okay, he's for a 9:30 class, shows up at exactly at 10 o'clock. You wonder what's going on with this guy. Why doesn't he show up on time to the class, right? So of course, if you stop here, the how might we would be, how might we get this student to come to class on time, right? So if this is a problem statement we have observed in the empathize, we would see that this guy shows up to class late regularly. Then we can ask how might we get the student to come on time to class. Okay, how can we make him regular to class, right? But I want to know what the reason really is. Why does this person come to class regularly late, right? At 10 o'clock exactly every day, every class. So I put this down, I asked him, and he said, well, I woke up late. That was his simple answer to this whole question. That's okay, fine. So I said, I'll put it in a chart like this so that I understand what's going on. So his hour of waking up was for a 9:30 class was 9 o'clock. He woke up at 9 o'clock. And so getting ready and, going to the mess, eating up, gobbling up some breakfast, and then walking all the way to the campus, he would come up at 10 o'clock. Okay, so at 10 he would show up, which is half an hour late, right? But my class is at 9:30. So obviously this is unacceptable for me. Okay, so somehow if I could wake him up a little earlier, he would start showing up on time. Of course, I'm making a big assumption. So how might we wake him up earlier? Okay, I'm making a big assumption here is that if the student woke up early, they would be on time to the class. So let's say he wakes up at 8:30. The assumption is, all things considered, he shows up on time to class. Okay, that's the hope. All right. So this is how it works, right? But I'm not satisfied with this level alone. As you can see, this is level 1. Ask another question saying, why did he wake up late? Why? I mean, 9 o'clock is too late to wake up. Why did this guy wake up so late? I asked him, and he said, I slept late. So he slept at 5:30. Turns out he slept at 5:30 a.m. Well, that's crazy, right? So why would he sleep at 5:30 a.m. And turns out that's why he's late to class, right? He's coming at 10 o'clock. So every time he goes to bed at 5:30, he shows up at 10 o'clock to class. Suppose I make him, how might we wake him up earlier? I'm sorry, put him to bed earlier. Let's say 4 a.m. Okay, just for the heck of it. Let's say we somehow magically, how might we wake him up at 4 a.m. so that he comes to class at 9:30? We put him to bed at 4 a.m. max. Okay. But the assumption really here is if they slept early, they would wake up early and hence be on time to class. So 4 a.m. to bed, 8:30 they would wake up and then show up on time to class. That's my assumption here. Okay. So we're also keeping track of what assumptions I made about my user, my customer, what their habits are. As you can already see the pattern, this is level 2, so I can go level 3. Why did this student sleep late? I asked him and he said, well, sir, you give me too many deadlines. Okay. And not only my course, he has other courses also. He has so many deadlines. So I have 4 deadlines because 4 modules, so I have 4 deadlines. And so he says that because of the 4 deadlines, he comes to class at 10 o'clock. Okay, so that's a direct correlation. And if somehow I can reduce it down, I don't know what's the ideal number. If I have 1 deadline, maybe, okay, it would start showing up on time to class. That's his rationale. So how might we reduce the number of deadlines for the course so that the student shows up at 9:30 in class? Now you can see my assumption has become a long line. If there are less deadlines for the courses, they would sleep early, they would wake up early, and hence be on time for the class. These are all assumptions I've made. Doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's false. It's just assumption. Okay. And in the testing phase, we can actually test them all, whether it's true or not. Okay. So of course, level 3 means you can go to level 4 also and find out why do I have 4 deadlines for the course and multiply that by the number of courses they take, right? 6 courses, 24 deadlines. So this is the number of deadlines that the student has to deal with, right? I have 4 core deadlines because the university asked me to have 4 modules at least. So my assumption was that if there are 4 modules, there have to be 4 assignments. And 4 assignments means 4 deadlines, right? And 4 deadlines means this guy showing up late. Okay, that's the sort of chain of logic that that connects all of these. That it actually boils down to the number of modules that they have. So how might we reduce the number of modules I have? That will boil down to this guy showing up on time to class. Okay, what I want to highlight is the fact that these Y chains are linked to each other. They are not disparate, they are not disconnected, they're actually connected, right? As is shown by these things there. Why did the student come late to class? Because they woke up late. Why did they wake up late? Because they slept late. Why did they sleep late? Because they have many deadlines. And so on and so forth. We can keep going down below, right? So as many as you want. And you'll see that in real life, the answer may not be just one reason. He came late to class because he lives far away from campus. That could be another reason. Well, because he was why did he wake up late? Because he was playing games, maybe. Maybe he's an akanksha, I don't know. Okay, so it could be several of those reasons. So it becomes very interesting to note and find out all the other reasons as well, and you can keep drilling. And this way we are trying to understand, expand our horizon on what the problem really is. We started with the student, but we went into all other directions trying to figure out what the problem is. The best organizations, the best companies understand their customer very, very well by doing things like this, trying to get to the root cause of many of the problems that their customer goes through. Okay, we go back to our case study. How might we, from the customer journey, I picked one which is impactful. How might we reduce the kids playing time on the mobile? There are several reasons. Why does the kid play on the mobile for such a long time? To gain experience points. How might we reduce the XP points gain? Could be the question that is asked. Why does the kid want to gain XP points? Because there are rewards that kid can brag about the friends. How might we reduce the rewards given out? And why does the mobile app reward the kid for experience? And so on and so forth. I mean, you can keep going to the fourth level. That's what it did. Eventually ended up with why children are exposed to all sorts of apps owing to lack of control mechanisms. So that's what the root cause seems like. Because now, at least back then when we were analyzing it, children were exposed to, you know, very benign apps which are educational, apps such as extremely addictive apps, games and stuff which can keep the children addicted for a long time also. Since there was no control over that, they seem to be addicted to, they're exposed. The fact is that they're exposed to all these apps means they start installing it and they play and they get addicted and they're on the mobile for a long time. That is the root cause, is what we found out. So the how might we at the end was, how might we control the type of mobile apps even exposed to the kid? If we can do that, then all this sort of is answered. This is not the solution, by the way. We have no idea how to control it. But we know that if we solve this, we will solve all of these problems up ahead also. So after our analysis, the how might we now changes to how might we control the type of mobile apps available to the kid, to the child, right? So that's our new how might we. We started with the how might we of how might we reduce the time spent by the mobile spent on the mobile by the kid, but now our how might we, after our analysis, after understanding the problem, is now different. Okay, it will be, if you have done good analysis, thorough analysis, you will find that the how might we actually changes. Okay, all right. So now your task. Okay, analyze here as the first part of analyze. We will first choose one impactful how might we from the customer journey map. So whoever did it in the last phase, go ahead and find out one impactful how might we from the previous one. Perform the multi-way analysis as you saw me do with couple of examples. Now put it down into your notebook or into a graphical format if you want. Okay, or just write it down saying this is the question. You answer it. Why is this a problem? Answer it. Ask the why on that answer. Get the answer. Ask why on that answer, and so on and so forth. Right. Take the last why or the last one that you think is impactful. Convert that into your new how might we question. Again, we will not give any solution because we need to do one more analysis before we head on to solutions. Okay, this is where I will test your patience. Okay, you want to solve it, the problem, the question is right there, but I'm asking you not to solve it yet. Okay, so here again I will give you my slides and you can use them. Where is my, okay, here you can see. Okay, this is the slide deck. You can use this. What is the time right now? Okay, it's almost 1. Maybe about 10 minutes for this also. 1:05. It shouldn't take you a long time. 1:05, 1:07 is the time we have. Sandeep sir, how much time, at what time do we break for lunch? Or this?
At 1:30.
Oh, till 1:30 we have time. Okay, great. Okay, fine. So we can take full 10 minutes then. So we'll take till 1:10 for this, and then we'll do the self-evaluation like we did the last time around.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay, thank you. As always, if you have any questions, anything that is not so easy to figure out on your own, please don't hesitate to ask me via chat or unmute and ask me. I will be happy to answer them for you. Okay, less than a minute. If you need more time, please do let me know via chat or unmute and let me know. Otherwise, we will move on. Move on to self-evaluate. Okay, 10 minutes are up. So we will go back to self-evaluate. Okay, so again, you've seen the drill once. So 1 mark if you have taken the statement from the previous empathize and just wrote it down, or if you referred to that, give yourself 1 mark. Right, 1 mark for even referring to that how might be statement. If you looked at it, even that's fine. You can basically the starting or the input to analyze is your statement from empathize. If you need to select at least one, but you can analyze many more than that also. Most impactful, how might we? Okay, 1 mark if you have a chain of why statements, connected chain of why statements, rather than independent whys. In sometimes many of my students do it. They ask why questions. Okay, all of them very important, very relevant. However, they're all independent. They are not connected by logic with each other. Right. The way it works, multi-why works best is when you ask a question, the answer to that you ask why on that, and ask the answer why on the answer to that why. So it's connected very well through logic. If it's connected, give yourself 1 mark. If they are independent, they don't seem to be connected by via logic, you can't give yourself this mark. Right. If you have gone, this is a bonus though. If you have given yourself, if you've even drawn the graph of the why statements, because why is this graph important? Is this necessary? I feel that you can find out what is it that can be varied, what can be something that we can work on. Okay, it becomes a lot easier to work with something that is controllable in the future in solve. Okay, so that's why we track what is it that can be varied, and you will see it in the next analysis tools tool also, that when we cover it. Okay, so if you have grafted, this is a bonus mark. You can give yourself that mark. Also a bonus if you have crossed 5 levels of analysis. Okay, there's nothing magical about the number 5 in 5 whys. That's why I made it kind of change that to multi-why, because to me 5 is just a number. It's nothing magical about it. If you've gone beyond 5, say 6 levels, 7 levels, that shows how good you know the problem. If you have stopped at 3, that's all you know about the problem. Okay, it doesn't say anything about the problem or about you. It's about you. Now you're aware of the level of knowledge you have about the particular problem. Okay, so that's why we give ourselves 1 bonus. That means you know the problem very well. Great. Bonus also if you have branched multi-whys. Okay, so remember I drew this graph where you may have not just one reason but multiple reasons. If you have multiple reasons, then you will need branching also. Again, a bonus. All 3 are bonus marks. Okay, all right. Again, as always, if you have not listed solutions here, give yourself 1 mark. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 are the main marks. So this is out of 3. The last one, of course, is 1 mark for writing a how might we statement. If you at the end taken the why and converted that into a how might we, because that is now the new problem statement, right? So that's the statement we're going to work on in the subsequent step. That's going to be carry 1 mark. Okay, so this is out of 4, and you can score a potential up to 7 marks. So whatever you, if you are willing to share and you're okay to share it, please go ahead and share it. It is actually total of 4. It should read 4 here. Total out of 4 is what we are going to share. Okay. Oh, thank you so much, ma'am.
Sir, I got did 5 levels of analysis. So should I give myself 1 mark?
It is okay. You can give yourself my discretionary mark. I will give you. Okay, go ahead and take that mark, ma'am. Okay, thank you so much, Pratiksha ma'am, Sanya ma'am, Vijayshri ma'am, Vishal sir. Thank you so much for sharing your marks. Alka ma'am, Sakshi ma'am, Bhuma ma'am. Wow, too good. Okay, Prashant sir, thank you so much for sharing it. It takes a lot of guts to share your marks in public like this. Thank you so much. Rahul sir, thank you so much. Okay, anybody else want to share? Okay, thank you so much, folks. So, if you've not completed it, go ahead and complete this. This is a lot of fun trying to analyze a problem and look at it from very. Thank you, Kirti ma'am, for sharing your marks. It's a lot of fun to do this on a problem statement. You will come up with all sorts of reasons, some various reasons from your own perspective. It's very interesting. And this is the stage where we also involve experts. Suppose you are stuck somewhere at level 3 and you want to go beyond that. Experts come in handy because they know more about, say, it could be a interaction design expert or a educational expert, a pedagogy expert. It could be a person who knows more about the subject, has experience, a lot of more experience in that particular area. That's what we try to find out. Okay, or even going back to the users also may help. I'm not saying it will help, may help. Okay, so that's it for this morning. I'm opening the floor for questions. If there are any, we can take questions right now. In the afternoon, I will promise that we will watch a movie. We will watch not one movie but 2 movies together. Okay, that's my promise and my hook to get you back to the afternoon session. Okay, are there any questions, or if you want to share any reflections on your experience with these methods, empathize, the customer journey map, and the multi-voice, I'll be happy to hear them. Even places where you struggled is also fine. We are sharing our knowledge. I'm also learning more about the method that way.
Hello, sir. Good
Yes.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
This is Pratiksha, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, will not be able to put on the video because there is a bandwidth problem with my.
No worries, no worries. We understand.
It's a great experience to hear you since morning. Thank you so much for that. And one thing I just wanted to share, it's not a question as such, as I was working on the activity that you had given. When I started with the second one, I realized I went into more of finding a solution. You kept on saying, please don't go for the solution. But when I selected one particular problem and then you started working on a second one, like the second activity, then I started realizing I went into a mode of finding a solution for that instead of writing WH questions.
Okay. Thank you so much for
One
sharing.
realization. So I had to make changes to the first one first and then do the second activity. So it took time over there, but it was a great learning, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experience. One tip that I have, and it's inevitable, ma'am. I totally agree with you that it is inevitable that we come up with solutions. I'll tell you why. From kindergarten onwards, we have been asked to answer questions, right? So we've always been trained for so long that when we have a question, we have to answer them. And when you see a how might we question there, our instinct somewhere tells us that we have to answer it right now. Okay, and I keep that's precisely why I said tip no solution, please. Why? Because it's trying to fight our instincts to come up with a solution. Okay, so in case you cannot resist that, here's a tip I have is go to the back of your notebook and write that solution. I don't want to lose that idea. Maybe it's a great idea. I don't want to lose that solution also. You can't prevent yourself, you can't stop yourself from generating your that idea. Write it down in the back of your notebook somewhere. This is the solution for this problem, and that's it. Your mind now will not think about it anymore.
Okay.
This tip has worked very well for me. I was exactly in the same boat that you are in. Moment I see a question, I immediately start answering it. I'm coming up with solution.
Correct, correct. Thank you
Thanks.
so much. I will
Thank
always do
you.
that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sanya ma'am says, I had some difficult time initially to understand few concepts, but slowly understood sometimes. It's far more important to notice the problems than to jump to a solution. Great session, sir. Thank you so much for the kind words. I totally agree with this. Pratiksha ma'am also shared a similar experience. Thank you. Anybody else want to share your experiences or you have any questions?
You can also put your questions in chat box.
Yes, yes. If you're, you can share it, or if you're like me, you can unmute and ask me also. Totally fine with that.
One question.
Yes, please.
Can you give some practical example of how design thinking is used?
Ma'am, would you please speak louder? Would you please speak louder? You're not audible.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'll just use my earphone. Yeah. Can you hear me now, sir?
Oh yeah, very loud and clear. Yes, please.
So I wanted to know if you can give any practical examples of how we might use design thinking in our teaching process.
Okay, great.
Colleges, because this is all more theoretical, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great question, ma'am. So if you look at it, those what we offer as a course, what we offer is a service. The teaching is a service. We provide content in a easily understandable manner, in an easily a practical manner, based on our own experiences, based on cases that we have read somewhere, or we have looked at it from a textbook, or from practical examples. So many sources that we look at, and then we collate all that and give it to the students. Right now, that is our job, our perspective. Totally okay, but run to the other side of the spectrum, right? So you look at who's receiving it and how are they receiving it. So that's where our design thinking experience starts, right? So one of the easiest and even may sound very frivolous is to even sit in a chair in different parts of the lecture hall, or in an online setup. Try to be like how you're doing it for my class, right? So in this case, I am the professor, you're the student. Observe yourself. What is it that I'm going through? Make very, very sincere notes on what you observe, in terms of very, very simple things like, is the font readable? Very simple things. This makes a big difference. When my font size went up, the engagement in the class actually increased. You would not believe. Not the quality of examples I was sharing, not the quality of the cases that I was giving in, not the relevance of it in their field, because oftentimes I work with students whom I don't have any training in HR, finance. I have no background in that. Okay, but even simple things you note down and make a change into your sessions, that goes a long way into making a big difference for our students. Okay, so that would be my sort of practical sort of tip. And this I have done it several times. I would spend a lot of time after the class, sitting. It looked funny in my class when you come into it. At several points, I'll be looking at several places and trying to see how does this whole content look like. And I would keep screening through my slides. Do I need the slides here? I would unscrupulously take off content sometimes. Activities I would remove based on some of these experiences. Of course, that's one part of it. Okay. The second part of it is, I have spent many a lunch with my students. Often I'm hanging out more with my students than with my faculty, co-faculty, or my colleagues. I have got many other tips, many other things from my students that I found it useful. One of the things that I can share is, the first time I taught design thinking for my MBA students wasn't received very well. My engagement was pretty low. I thought the activities were engaging, but it wasn't. Okay, I couldn't get why they weren't. Turns out that a lunch session later, I found this out. I was sitting for lunch and I realized these guys have a huge loan on their head. Okay, because they're in MBA school, prestigious one, they have to take a big, huge loan. And that's the thought that keeps running into them. How am I going to get rid of these loans after I'm done with college? So, which means in the connected, it is they want to get placed and they want to get good high placement so that they can finish off their loans as quickly as possible. Okay, when these thoughts run into their mind, are running in their mind, anything that sort of points them toward, this may be obvious to you, for me it wasn't. Okay, anything that points them towards this job and loans and placement and recruitment caught their attention. Anything away from that didn't. Okay, this was a simple insight revelation that came out of a one lunch session, and subsequently I did do some searching with other students. It turned out to be true. After then, I said, guys, in my first ever session, I told them, after this second ever session, I told them, guys, I want this project to be so meaningful that it enters your CV, so that your potential employers will look at it and say, design thinking project in X, Y, and Z. Tell us about that. I want it to be like that. You should choose your project such that it goes into your CV direct. That's when my course is successful. Till then, it is not. And then they thought about courses that will actually go into their CV, and many of them said, yes, sir, it did make a difference. So for me, that was feedback. For me, these little things that we take as professors, we take it for granted. Content is important. They should know EAST. That's important. But if I didn't provide practical example, practical things that would fetch them a job or make them valuable in a startup, or help them deal with real problems in real life, it didn't make any sense. Whatever I was teaching, that was for me a big aha moment, and that's the kind of thinking that we as professors need to be doing. I know we do a lot already, right? We're thinking about syllabus and we're thinking about finishing it up in the semester. There are so many formalities, so many meetings to attend. There are so many things that we have to do. But this eventually, our director also keeps saying that students are our customers. We have to treat them with that much care as if they are our customers. So I don't know if I answered it or have I been all over the place. It'll be great if you have some follow-up questions around that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for that very, very interesting question. Any other questions? Or thoughts, reflections on what we did? Okay, all right.
Question, sir.
Okay.
I think most of the doubts has already been cleared by you, actually.
Thank you, sir.
You're very clear in your delivery, so there is no doubt left.
Oh boy, that's scary. No, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, ma'am. Okay, so
thank you, sir, for such a
yeah. No, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Sandeep, sir.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. You have given a very different approach to look at the design thinking and its stages, and you also throw a light on what is the design thinking methodology and how one can use it. It was an excellent session, sir.
Thank you very much.
So we'll request all the participants to get back to the next session, which is scheduled at 2:30. And you are requested to join the session before 5 minutes.
Yeah. So don't miss the movies that you're going to watch in the afternoon. So we will learn from movies. So that's what we'll do. We'll watch 2 movie clips to learn from that.
We are also waiting to see that.
Okay. Thank you, folks. Have a good lunch. See you after lunch then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sandeep sir. So this is, the reason I have movies in the afternoon. One is definitely this is post lunch. So one of my students call it the graveyard session, right? So post lunch, it's so difficult. It's so quiet. Students are hardly moving. So you need something to keep us engaged. So that is one part of it. The second is after I ask you to watch a movie like what we are going to do right now, you will start looking at movies from a very different angle. I promise this is going to happen because it happened with me. I'm sure it's going to happen with you as well. Okay. So with that, I just want to recall what went on. As sir, I guess I need screen sharing permissions. I don't seem to have that.
Yes, yes. It is given, sir. It has been given.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. All right. Okay, so so in the morning we learned this, right? So we saw this method of empathize, analyze, solve, and test. So we looked at what is the empathize part of it, which is what are people going through in design thinking. It is the human centricity. So if you saw here, we talked about human-centered products and services. So we need human-centered. This is an approach. Design thinking is an approach where we take the product and service. In order to create that, we need the human being right in the center of it. Any change we think about, we always think about how will they react to it, what is going on with them, with the people who are the recipients of our product and service. So that's the rationale really. Oh, sorry. That's the rationale really built into this method. After that, we try to analyze. So one of the techniques that we saw in the morning session was multi-why, right? So multi-why is one technique which we use to get to the root cause. Once we get to the root cause, we will use a new technique now, which is the one that I was talking about in terms of we can gather that technique from movies. We can learn it the best way from movies. Okay, that we'll do it just after a little bit. Okay, and then we get into solve. If we have time, we'll definitely do solve a little bit as well. We won't have time. These are overall, it takes about I think it's a 30-hour course in its bare minimum that we can do this. So I dedicate 7.5 hours to each of these modules. So that's how it's designed. And solve, we dedicate one for our own creativity. We use it, or when we are interacting in teams, we also use the team's creativity. Plus, when you're stuck, there are some hacks to use that. If we have time, we'll definitely look at one of those hacks that will help you create ideas at will. You will never be stuck for ideas anymore after this. Okay. And then test is a prototype, which we are definitely not going to cover. We won't have the time to do it this time. Okay. So, okay. So the tool that I have in mind is something called conflict of interest. Okay. So conflicts are part and parcel of life itself. Okay. And conflicts are one party wants to provide something and they can only provide so much, but the other party wants much more of that, right? We figured that out in our root cause. So there's a conflict because we don't have infinite resources, we don't have a lot of money, we don't have a lot of time, we don't have a lot of people to do this. So there's always a conflict. And if there is no conflict, you can go ahead and solve it. There's no problem at all, right? So the problem comes when there is a some sort of constraint. That a student wants us to go really slow and teach them, every module they want us to spend a lot of time, but we don't have that time, right? We have to cover the syllabus, we have to conduct grading, we have to do the exams. All that has to be done within certain time. So that's a conflict straight away, right? So best way to learn conflicts is through movies. So which is the promise that I had before lunch, and we will watch a clip. We won't watch an entire movie, you'll watch a clip from a movie. This is one of my favorites called The Matrix. This came in 1999. And sci-fi, science fiction, I'm a big fan of science fiction. So we will do that. Then we'll watch a Hindi movie as well after this. So this is a clip to show you what conflicts are. Watch the clip, then we will discuss what the conflict is. Some reason I can't full screen it. Yeah. My internet.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. The sound is not coming. So request you to please share the screen with sound.
Okay, I did do that. Let me try it one more time. Okay, I've clicked on share sound. Let's see if you can hear it.
Yeah.
Are you getting it now?
Codes and got into Zion's mainframe. They could destroy us. What are they doing to him?
Okay, you can stop right here. Okay, so the movie, in fact, the sequel is also released now, the Matrix Part 4. The conflict really, when represented in a pictorial format, is this: the guy, the operator, his plug, right? So he's holding this plug, and the status of the plug is the variable that we have. Remember, I was talking about variable in multivy as well. What can we actually change? So this is the action stuff, right? So when we can vary something, what is the consequence of that varying? So if suppose we leave the plug in, if Tank had left it in inside Morpheus, then Morpheus would live, which is what they want. Their leader is Morpheus, the guy who's captured by the bad guys. He will live on, but since he's captured, Zion, the last human city, is going to be captured because Morpheus will reveal the codes to the bad guys, and the bad guys take over the city. Okay, so that's not a good thing. So what is represented in red is a bad thing. We don't want that to happen. Suppose the Tank does decide to plug out, pull the plug out, which is what he was planning to do before Neo stopped him. If he pulled out the plug, the codes won't be compromised, and hence Zion will be saved, right? So the city is not going to be captured because there's no code is not cracked, and so Zion's saved. But while pulling the plug out, Morpheus dies. Okay, their leader is dead, which is something that they don't want. So Neo says, I have to make a choice. I have to decide whether Morpheus lives or Zion is saved. One of these two only I can do. But he is a hero, right? So he obviously will make sure that Morpheus lives and that Zion is also saved. That's what he's taking action on. So the desired result really from Neo's perspective is that Morpheus should live as well as Zion should be saved. So the code should not be revealed to the bad guys. So that's what he does in the next scene after this. Of course, you can go check out Matrix 1999 movie, the first part. The whole movie is there. You can go watch it at your leisure. I think it's there on Amazon Prime if you're interested. I love this movie. I watched it so many times. Not only this conflict, there are many other conflicts in the movie. In fact, movies are quite useless and boring if there are no conflicts in them. Each and every movie, in fact, I recently saw a Marathi movie or heard about this called Jeevan Sandhya. There's a series of conflicts that the hero faces, right? So At one after the other, it's a series of conflicts. So we'll watch another movie called Bhool Bhulaiya. We'll watch a clip from this. Here also, the heroine Vidya Balan is played by Vidya Balan. She suffers. I'm sure you've seen it in one language or the other. It came in Hindi, but was filmed in various languages in India. A huge success. The female character is split personality. She is Avni and Manjulika. Avni, she is a modern day girl, very sort of scared and very devoted to her husband. But the other character, Manjulika, which is her alter ego or alternate personality, she is a dancer. She wants revenge on the bad guys and the whole thing, right? So this scene is the exact split that you can see in her personality, and this is a conflict of sorts. I will explain the conflict. I'm sure you've already figured out what the conflict is, but we will see the clip and then we can decide on our own what is the conflict. Well, my internet's really slow today.
आज दुर्गाष्टमी है, तेरा गला काट के तेरा खून पीना है, तेरे मुर्दे पे मुझे ताना है।
कहाँ जा रही हो?
Okay.
बताया था ना मैंने तुम्हें, आज दुर्गाष्टमी है, तेरा गला काट के तेरा खून पीना है, तेरे मुर्दे पे मुझे ताना है।
All right. Okay, you can watch the rest of the movie. I guess it's all. I don't work for Netflix, but I'm sure it's available on Netflix. All right. Okay, so what's the conflict there, right? So Avni and Manjulika are the same person. They're split personality, and husband's life really is the variable that this character has. As Manjulika, she wants the husband dead, right? So she wants to kill the husband because she thinks she's somebody else. If she does that, then her revenge is definitely satisfied. And later in the movie, she even promises that she will not enter Avni's life again. And but the flip side is that Avni's husband is no more, and that's no good because Avni likes her husband, loves her husband. It's her husband after all, right? That's not something that she wants. On the other hand, if as Avni, she wants her husband to be alive, if that happens, yay, Avni still has her husband, so no problem there. However, her split personality, Manjulika's revenge, is unsatisfied. Okay, so most problems worth solving have this, big conflict, right, within it, usually between two people. In this case, is the same person but two different situations. So Avni's husband should live, plus Manjulika's revenge is satisfied. You have to watch the rest of the movie, how they, if you haven't, that is, how they actually solve this problem of the revenge being satisfied and Avni's husband living on. Okay, so all movies. So now go watch a movie or read a novel and see what all the conflicts that there are to learn about conflicts. Because any problem worth solving, anything that is, that you find innovative or inventive or creative that you see come across, at the heart of it is a contradiction, a conflict solved. Okay, every problem, any product feature you see, any new service that is offered, always resolves a conflict. Okay, so you have to look at it from a conflict perspective. You'll be able to easily spot them now that you know what to look for. Okay, so there are two sides to this, and you will find that out. Okay, so that's what this tool is all about. Okay, in our kids case study, we looked at it and we said, what is the number of from since the morning people have joined in the afternoon session. This is a case study we've been following, tracking with as a model case study to look at how the tools of design thinking really work. Kids' access to apps is was a problem, right? So they were exposed to all sorts of apps. So one of the variables that could be controlled is the number of apps that they're exposed to. If they have too many apps exposed, it actually gives them freedom to discover all sorts of new apps, right? So the kid feels very happy when they stumble upon a tool that they really like and they can learn from it. However, the problem is that there's no parental control. So we don't know whether it's very addictive or whether it's actually suitable for a kid or not. So that's a real problem that they have when there are too many apps in the store. If there are too few apps, all of them are certified by parents. They are allowed only few apps to be shown to the kid. Great, they will only see what the parent wants them to see. However, it provides less freedom to discover new apps. As kids, we want them to have fun, discover the things on their own. However, we want to retain some parental controls also. Okay, so this is the desired result really for us, is to have the cake and eat it too, right? So we want more freedom to discover new apps as well as parental control. So when expressed like this, we know exactly what to solve. What is the problem statement? If you want to, how might we like this? You can say, how might we provide more freedoms to more freedom to discover new apps while retaining parental control over the type of apps, right? So when you're doing analysis, you can always refer to your notes and images with video. So if you're visiting a classroom, you want to really improve the classroom experience for your students, take ample pictures, take a video of your student attending it, and then examine it at later stage, trying to see from their perspective what they see, and you can probably analyze the problem even better than when they are on venue. You can look at it, you can change analysis and then come back. And of course, if there are experts on the field, you can consult them. I did briefly mention about this earlier in the morning as well. You can also talk to your users, your students, your stakeholders, somebody who has experience with other kinds of students. You can bring them and talk to them as well, so that you can get more insights into this. Many of the multi-way analysis that we did in the morning were all based on our own experience, our own understanding. You can confirm that either using your own observation, again the notes and stuff, or interviews. All right. So for conflict of interest, one of the tips that for me really helps is to consider 2 points of view at the same time. Of course, there will be more points of view, but we end up being confused very easily. Okay, humans are capable of only analyzing 2 points of view. That's why you can see matches, sport matches between two sides. More than two sides, you're wondering who's fighting whom. You really don't know what's going on. So we have a limitation. That's why we consider 2 points of view at one time. So student versus professor, or or in your case, security guard versus the employer, or out of town student versus the professor. So it could be many of these, but at 2 at a time is what we consider. Okay. Now we're going to take your problem in the morning, and we will apply a conflict of interest analysis to this. So take the how might we from the multi-wise exercise, identify who are the two conflicting actors, okay, and then draw the conflict. It's called an ENV model. You can ignore this for a moment. It's called element, name, and value. Element, name, value. Element is where is the problem. So the kid's access was where the problem was. Name of the variable, that is n, is the number of apps, that was the name of the variable. V is the value of more number of apps, less number of apps. So that's all we did, right? So ENV is element, name, value. Where what is the variable, and what are the values. So these are few things that to ask. And write the new how might be from the desired result. At the end, you can do that. Okay. I'm going to give you these slides so that you can refer to that. We'll take about 5 minutes for this to resolve. I know it's very less time, but I just want to do the solve after this because a lot of you had asked me questions on solve. So I've included that. Initially, I did not plan on including it, but looking at the interest that you have in solve, I thought you could do with some solve exercises as well. So good luck. We have 5 minutes for this activity. It's 3 o'clock, so 3:05 we will stop this activity. Okay, less than a minute to go. Okay, all right. So, as always, we will have a self-evaluation. Take your time and do this. Oh, I don't know. For some reason, it's gone. Well, I don't know where's my self-evaluation gone. Okay. The 1 mark for identifying 2 actors. So one for writing the multi-Y from HMW from multi-Y, and give yourself 2 marks if you have the full model. So 2, 2, 1, 1, and last how might we is 1 mark also. So this is 1 mark. Let me write it here. For some reason my slide is missing. So 1 mark if you have written down the how might we, 1 mark if you have identified the conflicting actors, 2 marks if you have completed the full model, and 1 mark for your how might be. So that's a total of 5 marks. Okay. So just do it at, I'm sorry I didn't give you enough time, but this takes a little bit more time to understand the model and do it as well. Okay. So good luck with that. I just want to go ahead and do the solve, which is something that I really like, enjoy doing it. So one of the first steps we do is to exercise our creativity muscle. So for that, I would request you to take a pen and paper and write down 20 alternative uses for a pen. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, is 20 alternate uses for a pen. And you have about 7 minutes for this task. So you can write down a long list of whatever you think is a alternate use of a pen.
Alternate use of pen, like writing.
Yeah. Yeah, you can write it down in a list, long list. See how many you can come up with, as many as you can. 20 is your target. Yeah, roughly a minute left for this task. Okay, pens down. Okay, all right. So this is the self-evaluation scheme for yourself. If you have less than 5 ideas, 5 of those lists, then give yourself 1 mark. 5 to 7, 2 marks. 8 to 10, 3 marks. 11 to 15, give yourself 4 marks, and greater than 15, 5 marks. Okay, I participated as well. Okay, somebody shared. Oh wow, Vishal sir has 16 ideas. 5. Sania ma'am also has 5. Nice, very nice. Good to know that we are very creative. So you can take the same exercise instead of pen. You can take any other object and try this. Sakshi ma'am has 4. Okay, good to know that. Vijayshi ma'am was also 5. 11 ideas for Alka ma'am. Pratiksha ma'am has 3. Rahul sir has 5. Prashant sir has 12 ideas. Rahul sir has 5 score, I guess, 5 marks. Very nice. Good to see that you're very creative. Right. So the main idea is that in this, there are few things that we do in this. One is that we look at examine. It didn't all come at the same go. For people who have come up to 15 ideas, it wasn't at one shot. If you observe, you would have gone slow. You could have gone fast initially, writing, pointing, scratching your back, and stopper and all that. Those initial ideas are all somewhere you've done it yourself or you've seen it yourself, right? So those are what I call database ideas. One of the other reasons why I keep stopping you from generating ideas before we have done the analysis is all these are all ideas that are already there and not so creative ideas. After about roughly the 7 mark, 6 mark is when the creative ideas start entering your head, right? We start to form these connections. Then you start questioning, saying, why should the pen be whole itself? Can I break it into 2? Can I burn it? Can I dice it into several pieces? Can I turn it the other way around? You start doing so many other combinations with the pen. Can I have multiple pens? Can it be like that? Can it be like clock hand? You start looking at it from various perspectives. Then a little more ideas start coming into your head. And after a while, I'll tell you, you will not stop at all. You can keep going forever. It becomes that way because after a while, your brain just starts making these connections left, right, and center. So that's the part where the creative ideas are. So you have to weather the storm initially. So never ever settle with the first few ideas that you get for any problem. Okay, that's one of my tips that I have for you. Leena ma'am and Vibhuti sir have also shared their scores. Thank you so much. Okay, so always try to see if you can go beyond what it is. So that's why I always do this silent brainstorming for 2 reasons. One is you go beyond what is the regular accepted ideas, very already accepted ideas. You'll go beyond and get some creative ideas. Two is we do it silently because we don't want to influence each other's thought patterns. Because sometimes the dominant people sort of take over and their ideas get accepted, but the other ideas are not heard. So, like a democratic process, we try to write it down and put it out there. Okay, so that's what we do. We can skip this part. I want to get, so how we do it is we basically write the latest how might we from the conflict of interest and write all possible ideas as a list, just like how we did with the creativity stuff. We do exactly that. Okay, so that's the idea, and we need to go check back if the ideas do solve the conflict. Okay, so you can the same scheme. I will give these to you later on, so you can do this. Okay, so I want to introduce a brain hack that will help you come up with ideas at will. So, which is what I was promising you early on, and I wanted to get to this part. So, sort of skipped one step in between. Anybody can read what this is? Can anyone read? Anyone, if you read this? No? Okay, any guesses on which language this is? You've seen this script before? Russian. Vishal sir says Russian, absolutely spot on. This is the Russian script. Okay, so keep in mind, I won't read it for you right now. Where do you think this place is? Now that I've primed you, I've sort of prepped you for this. Where do you think this place is? Any guesses? Where is this place?
Moscow, sir.
Moscow, very good guess. It could be in Russia somewhere. It could be Moscow. Any other guesses? Could be Moscow for sure. Okay, somebody says Siberia. Vishal sir continues saying Siberia. Yes, indeed, this is Siberia. What kind of a place this is? This is Siberia. You're absolutely right. One of the coldest places on planet Earth. Can get up to minus 50 degrees C. Okay, very, very cold stuff. On an average, it rarely sees any temperature above zero. Very rarely. What kind of a place do you think this is? Is it a bus stop? Is it something? What kind of a place is this?
Maybe some marketplace kind of thing.
It could be a marketplace. Good guess, Rajesh sir. Thank you. Any other guesses? It's a marketplace. Could be a bus stop. Not much of a clue in the picture. This is actually a prison. Okay, this is a prison called Gulag. This is a jail. Okay, so but you don't see those high walls or machine gun people who are observing them. Why? Because the prison is the warmest place for hundreds of miles. So there's no point for prisoners to even try to escape, because the warmest place for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers together, is the prison itself. So they're better off in the prison than go try to escape and go venture out. Okay, so this is one of the and my story starts here, very grim place, but it's known for one important event that happened during in this prison. A young inventor by name Altshuler, I'll show his picture. This guy was imprisoned by Joseph Stalin because he found something, and he told Joseph Stalin to change the country according to what he found. What did he find? He found that there are only a set patterns of thinking that human beings have, about 40 of them. How did he find that out? He went through inventions document, like patent documents. He looked through them. He found out that there are only a set patterns of thinking, only a finite ways of solving problems. So he said it's almost like a formula, like how mathematics has formulae. chemistry has formulae. Exactly like that, even inventing and problem solving has formula. Okay, he said if this is a certain type of problem comes in, we can solve it in a certain way, and he came up with a certain formula. Okay, and he wrote to the then president of USSR, and he also said you shouldn't be running your country like this. It should be much better if you don't do this and all that. And somehow Joseph Stalin did not like it and threw him into the prison that you saw in the previous picture. Okay, but there he didn't sit quiet. He discussed with lots of people in the prison. Now in the prison were also some chemists, some mathematicians, some biology people, technology people. All of them, he ran his theory and he got it much better. His algorithm got better. He in fact came up with an algorithm to solve problems. After Joseph Stalin passed away, he was released and he came out in the open and he started teaching this method. He had come up with a theory of inventive problem solving, or in Russian it is Teoria Решения изобретательских задач. Okay, in short form is TRIZ, trees. Okay, this is a very powerful theory behind how human mind works when it's trying to solve a problem. So at the core, design thinking is problem solving, and this is one of the best methods to solve problems. You can come up with ideas at will when you know some of the ways to do it. Okay, so he came up with an entire algorithm itself of a sequence of steps, and he documented in this book, originally written in Russian, later translated by Lev Shulyak and Steve Rodman. Okay, and his algorithm looked like this. The book actually has things like enter the elements, choose this. So it's a guide to help with the problem solving process itself. It's kind of similar to design thinking, right? We are saying, okay, we will empathize it, we will do it this way, we will analyze it, we will solve it. In solve, we primarily use this kind of a methodology to help us solve. One of the methods, principles that he discovered was preliminary action. For example, he came up with 40 of these inventive principles, and one of them is called preliminary action. Perform before it's needed. That's all it says. It doesn't say how to do it. So we will have to figure out in our own problem how to do it. Okay, perform before it's needed. So all the prep we do in preparing a Google form for our students' exam, that's exactly preliminary action. So that at the time of the exam, we don't have to think of questions. We already do it beforehand. That's all there is. That is nothing rocket science about it. It's a specific problem. So that's why I say coming up with ideas is no big deal. With triggers like this, you can come up with all sorts of ideas any number of times, any number of ideas, no problems. Okay, if you know the problem, you can easily solve it. Okay, so pre-arranged objects. So Kanban arrangements is exactly that. Right, in any domain, you can use these principles to solve. I'll show you one more example of beforehand cushioning. Prepare an emergency means beforehand to compensate for the relative low reliability of an object. Backup parachute. In case the main parachute fails, we have a backup parachute. In case my file gets deleted, I have a backup. Right. In any domain, we have this beforehand cushioning. Right. So in a car, we have these airbags. That's beforehand cushioning. We have it ready in case there is a sudden stop edge of the car. It will fill up and it will stop you from colliding with the steering column, right? So these are all beforehand cushioning. It's the same principle in various domains. Okay, this is one of my personal favorites. This principle. This is called the other way around. This inventive principle. Invert the action used to solve the problem. Okay, instead of cooling an object. Okay, so that's what this is. To loosen stuck parts, cool the inner part. Move movable parts, make movable parts fixed and fixed parts movable. So do the opposite. Treadmill, for example, empty graying, all that can be done by doing the other way around. So you'll see a bunch of videos now that will tell you. This is mainly for children, but I have learned a lot from this. I've started using it for adult pedagogy as well. So you can take a look at this. Hopefully my internet will obey this time. Apparently, yeah. Okay, so that was a European Union funded project called Tetris, teaching Triz at school. So that's what the project was all about. And when I was a research scholar at Italy, the same professor was a principal investigator for that project. Okay. All right. So again, I think in the interest of time, we'll skip this part. You need to do it yourself. We'll go to the conclusion directly. Well, we learned this. Let's recap. We learned empathize, analyze, solve, and test. Right. So we looked at empathize. We did it with some exercises. We did some analysis with multi-wise and conflict of interest. All of you did that very well. And solve. We looked at our own creativity. Using silent brainstorming techniques, writing it down, as well as Tree's inventive principles triggered ideas. Also, we can generate as many ideas as we want. If we think at any stage the problem is not well defined or we are not empathized very well, you are always welcome to go back and check out if everything is in order. And then we look at making prototypes out of it. Okay. Of course, if you keep this in mind, the customer-centric model or the learner-centric or the student-centric model, everything that we work on, all courses, all exams, any procedure, any changes that we want to bring about, always think about the learner who is right at the center of our services. Okay, in case you're a teacher. If not, whoever your output goes to, they are your customers, they are the center, your son. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, that's why this picture is important. All right, now what? So you've been through this for what, 6 hours now almost, and the big question now, what do I do? So first and foremost, go on your favorite search engine and type in your domain and type design thinking case studies. You will find tons and tons of case studies. People have been very generous. They've applied it in their own discipline and also documented it, shared it with the rest of the world. So you can learn so much from others' experience and how to use it in your own domain. Not only in software, in finance, in mechanical engineering, you name it. Every discipline is pretty much covered in design thinking case studies. So you will find a lot of case studies. Okay, so that's one thing for sure. Second is, of course, you can register for my course on Swayam. Okay, shameless advertising of my own course. Join the 25,000 alumni. If you have already done that, thank you so much for registering for the course. If you have not done that, I would highly recommend it to join the 25,000 people who have already taken this and have given feedback, and we have improved the course based on their feedback. We'd definitely love to know what you think as well. Okay. Of course, the advantage if you sign up for the exam is you get an IIT Madras certificate, FDP credits, and it's available on swayam.gov.in. Right now we are on a registration right now, 27th of January. I think we start the course, if I'm not wrong, and I'll be happy to see you there. And we also have a workshop at the end of this course itself, so you can register for that as well and have hands-on experience on working on a real case. Okay. Of course, references, I will share these slides with you. You can look at the references. My book, I've given you the link. It's available on Amazon and Flipkart. Design creation of artifacts in society. I learned a lot from Professor Carl Aldrich's course, University of Pennsylvania. Change by Design by Tim Brown is one of the co-founders of an organization called IDEO, and they were responsible for popularizing the method of design thinking in the world. In fact, Vishal Sikka, who is the ex-CEO of Infosys, sought their help and made sure that 50,000 odd software engineers are trained on design thinking and made it very popular in India. One of the primary reasons how design thinking became very popular was IDEO and ex-CEO of Infosys, Vishal Sikka. This book, I enjoyed it, Alshula's book, but unfortunately it's out of print. That's why I haven't given you a link. IDEO and D School, they have lots of case studies as links as well. So you can check out and read and learn from them. If you're a spiritual bent of mind, you can start with the Four Noble Truths and learn more about that. There are lots of books, links also given in Wikipedia. Okay, so third step is if you are a visual learner, if you like learning, watching videos and learning from them, I have a lot of YouTube videos in playlists categorized by the stage of design thinking. Empathize, I have some videos, analyze, solve, and test. And you can learn from search, learn, and watch. These slides and the links are all given in these. You can use them. Let me share that in the chat. You can certainly use them for your reading and watching pleasure. These are some acknowledgements. I have used some software, open source software. People have been generous to share their software. So here's me thanking them for sharing that software and acknowledging that I've used them. And also this methodology wouldn't have reached this stage if not for the generous time contribution and their mind space contribution by Professor Dimitri Kucharavi and Dr. Murli Loganathan. And of course, people like you who have made this journey really rich and rewarding. Thank you so much for your patient listening over these 6 hours. And if you have any questions, I can take it right now. Thank you so much. Thank the organizers for inviting me for this session as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Participants are requested to have, if you have any questions, you can directly ask by unmute yourself or by putting your questions in a chat box.
Or if you have any reflections on, because now you applied the method yourself, you've learned about how it works and where it doesn't work. Definitely, I would love to learn about this. Deepali ma'am says, okay, life is fantastic. Thank you so much for your kind words, Deepali ma'am. Thank you too, Shivam sir. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, please do remain in touch. I'll leave my coordinates in case you've not got it in the morning. I can definitely leave it with you so that we can keep in touch. If you want any help with with design thinking in your own college, or if you are teaching design thinking and you would like me to take a look at the syllabus, or you want help with the syllabus, please reach out to me. I'll definitely be happy to help you there.
Thank you, Bala sir. Thanks for the session. It had been a wonderful day and with a lot of learning.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me.
We'll be connecting back to you as we discussed in the morning.
Sure.
We'll get in touch with you.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sandeep, sir, for anchoring this. Thank you so much. Thank you, Magna, ma'am.
Excellent and knowledgeable information to all our participants. Yes, definitely they have gotten an idea to look towards the 4 mobile truths you discussed in the morning that has been given by Lord Buddha in his offerings to the mankind, and you brilliantly correlated these mobile truths that are Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, and Marga with the stages of design thinking like empathize, analyze, solve, and test. We also appreciate the way you took to explain the difficult concept such as conflict of interest in design thinking and role of creativity and innovation in design thinking. Sir, we are grateful that you would take the time from your busy schedule to deliver these sessions in our FDP. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude and thanks on behalf of DYP IMR family towards you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.